right now, Taylor. We looked over there.
Let's start it off. All right, I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Minturn Town Council. Today is Wednesday, June 3rd, 2026. Let's begin with roll call, please.
Spence here.
Mackenzie here.
Lynn here.
Tom here. Dusty here.
Eric here. And rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. To the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we've got the consent agenda. Nothing. We'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion by Gusty, second by Spence, all in favor?
Aye.
Right, and next up, we got the regular agenda. Any modifications or? Didn't see any, but Jade, we got any? Nothing. Cool. Take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular agenda as presented.
Second.
A motion by Gusty, second by Tom, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And any conflicts of interest tonight? Seeing none. Perfect. We will move on to public comment. Is anybody in the public? Yeah, would like to say something, state your name and address.
Andy Noakes, 29 Sunset Court in Eagle. I'll keep this very short and sweet. Hi, my name's Andy Noakes. Thank you for your time tonight. I'm here to formally introduce myself as a candidate for the Eagle County Assessor running in the next election. I promise you that when I was a little girl, I did not dream of one day growing up to be a county assessor. But it turns out it's the work I love and it's the office I'm seeking. I'm not a politician, I'm a technical professional. I've lived here in the Valley for 25 years. I started out as an appraisal trainee and today I serve as the chief appraiser in the assessor's office. Over the years, I worked closely with your community development department here in town, tracking new construction and all the changes that have happened here in Minturn. I've also tried to navigate the crazy world of TIFs and VDAs. I know how much fun they can be. But that technical knowledge matters when it comes to working with both towns and taxpayers, ensuring fair and accurate valuations. If elected, you can expect continued collaboration and partnership between the town and the assessor's office. Mark Chapin, many of you may know him. He's leaving very big shoes to fill, but I'm incredibly honored to say I have his endorsement along with the support of the entire assessor's office staff. I'm running to bring experience you can trust to this job, and I'd love to chat and earn your support in the future, and you can find me at andynoakes.com. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks for
Thank you.
Anybody else in the public wish to speak? Anybody online, Cindy?
There is not.
All right, I will close public comment. And council committee reports. Start with you, Spence.
I was actually just at a Core Transit IT committee meeting. They've been drafting their AI policy for the last 4 to 6 weeks with an outside agency, OGX. And it just made me think that we should probably have one too. Eagle is like at the forefront and they're just kind of thrown together. But there's not many that are out in the state, but there's an SB something that takes effect January 1st for, especially for public agencies with core requests and records of AI use. So we should probably get on that before January 1st.
Perfect. Not in his head.
I haven't sat on any committees yet. In my 2 weeks.
I don't have anything.
Happy to be back.
Welcome back.
I was just gonna give a reminder on a couple of things. Midterm cleanup day is June 13th, which is a Saturday, 7 to 12 p.m. Drop off is at the upper parking lot at Little Beach, and then first Friday is at Evoke, and it's 5 to 7, and it's coordinating pretty good with the bike races that's going on with the GoPro games at the bike park.
A lot of fun. Cool, nothing from my side, so we'll go to manager's report. Robert, would be able to take that.
I wasn't gonna provide anything in depth. Just figure it's better when I'm online. But I'm hoping at the next meeting, just a few items that we're gonna have is we're gonna have the contract for construction administration with HDR at the next meeting. And I'm hoping we're gonna have some good news about a grant.
Can you talk a little louder?
Oh, I was just saying at the next meeting, we're gonna have the contract for construction administration with HDR. And then I'm hoping some good news on a grant.
Thank you.
Just a couple of things. You might have noticed they're working on the Taylor Street paving and whatnot. That's going to be going on for a few days, a week or two. We did go ahead and do door hangers and passed out. The construction crews are really good at going up and knocking on doors. But I just want everybody to know that in order to have a nice roadway, it's going to take some inconvenience. The other thing is tomorrow, Thursday, the 4th, they're going to start seal coating the roads. We did put out door hangers on the ones that are going to get hit the first. But it's on the website, it's everywhere, so you can see they're going to try to do like one side of the street one day and then come back the next day down the other side so that you can still use Boulder or whatever. But last fall, they did the crack seal to this. Now they're going to seal coat all of the roads. So should have some nice roads. And then the other thing that I just kind of want to bring your attention to, we got notice about the opioid settlement that's still going forward, but I wanted to point out, we only got it was only like 200, less than $300, $279, I want to say, which is why we wanted to band together with the county and the state and whatnot, just so that it would go further. But that is still in play. You might see that. That's what that notice was in the packet, that kind of thing. And if anybody has any questions, happy to.
Look good.
Well, on that note, we will move on to special presentations. We've got some updates from the Eagle County Clerk and Recorder.
Good evening. Thanks for having me tonight. I really appreciate your time. My name is Becky Close. I'm currently your Eagle County Clerk and Recorder. I've been lucky to work with Jay since my time when I was the town clerk of Gypsum. So that's why I was mixing up my titles there, thinking of Jay and all of our town clerking activities. As you may know, I was appointed to this role in 2025 when my esteemed predecessor, Regina O'Brien, was selected as our next deputy county manager. I'm here tonight to give you a quick high-level update on our operations and some exciting changes happening right here in the county that will make accessing public services easier for all of our residents. I'm thrilled to share that the new Eagle County Commons building is officially open at 410 Miller Ranch Road in Edwards. And this facility is now the permanent home of Eagle County election operations, as well as the new home of the DMV, which is officially relocated from Avon to Edwards. So you'll no longer find them there. We're fully moved in and prepared to administer the two major elections this year. The primary coming up quickly here on Tuesday, June 30th, and the general election Tuesday, November 3rd. Our office is already hard at work. Military and overseas ballots are already out in the world, and regular mail ballots will hit the mail stream on Monday, so be on the lookout for those. To ensure a smooth delivery, I highly suggest that everyone take a quick moment to visit govotecolorado.gov to ensure their registration is up to date, including their affiliation and their mailing address, because in an open primary state, it's a little bit different for a primary function. Our unaffiliated voters will receive a ballot packet containing each major party ballot, and it's very important for them to only vote and return one. Otherwise, neither will count. The Unity and Libertarian parties are also hosting a primary, and if you're affiliated with one of those parties, you'll also receive their ballots.
In the spirit of full transparency, I want to share my path to the November ballot and explain a bit of the why behind it. As I mentioned, I was appointed to this seat last year, but to retain the position, I must now run for election in November. Because I'm registered as an unaffiliated official, Colorado law dictates a very different path for me compared to major party candidates. I don't participate in the Democratic or Republican caucus and assembly, meaning I cannot simply just be voted onto the ballot by my party. Instead, the law requires me to prove community support through a grassroots petition process to qualify for the November 3rd ballot. I must collect 318 signatures from registered voters here in Eagle County. Because I don't represent a specific party, any registered voter in the county can sign. So if anyone on the dais or here in the room tonight would be interested in supporting my petition, I have that bad boy right here with me. It's been my little sidekick. Or anyone listening online can reach out to clerkclose@gmail.com, and I'm happy to connect with anyone that would like to support my petition process. Thanks for all your time, leadership, and your continued partnership here in the town of Minturn. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Oh, okay. No, I'll ask the question.
Yeah, please.
So why unaffiliated?
Boy, great question. So this is something I decided when I was really young, and I felt like it was kind of picking a team. And while I align with some parts of each party, I don't align fully with either personally. And in this role as your county clerk and recorder, I think it's perfect for me to be unaffiliated. We have 34,000 registered voters, and I think it's really important that I'm a voice and can stand up for all of us and support all of our goals.
Based on that, I'll happily sign it now.
Oh, thank you. I so appreciate that.
You can just start here.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And it's super cool to be up in Minturn. I've never been in your town hall. It's very nice.
It's extravagant, isn't it?
No, it just feels like home, if I'm being honest. My dad used to work on the railroad up here, and he would be from Golden, and he tried to buy property when I was a baby here, and my mom wouldn't have any of it because this was too far of the beaten path for her at the time. Now I'd do anything to live here.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's going around. We can move on to Xcel Energy. General update presentation.
Excuse me. Good evening, Council and Mayor. Mr. Mayor, thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Blair McGarry. I am the area manager representing Xcel Energy in Summit, Eagle, Lake, Park, and Grant counties. I definitely consider myself the mountain girl on our team. I've been living, working, and playing in the mountains for well over 20 years now over in Summit County. So excited to be representing you. I feel like my role is one to represent the company, but also to advocate on behalf of our communities. So I am going to see if I can get this presentation up. Let's see. And I'm going to try not to make it 45 minutes. Let's see. Okay, I am going to specifically talk to you guys this evening about wildfire mitigation efforts that we have taking place in Colorado. I'm sure that you've probably heard through news outlets and different media relations that we have executed some public safety power shutoffs in the state. We are using enhanced power safety settings as a very large tool in our toolbox. And I really want to dive into those two again, tools in our toolbox with you this evening. But before I do that, I want to frame it a little bit. As you all know, wildfire is a near year-round risk in Colorado. We don't have a wildfire season anymore. This is the areas highlighted here are the areas that we serve in Colorado. And as you can see, we've broken them up into kind of 3 tiers. Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3.
Is there any dates associated with that?
With the map?
Yes, time period. Is that this month or 6 months ago or?
These are our tiers kind of year round for wildfires. So
it's an average?
We've taken a look at the state and the areas that we serve in the state. And what we've done is we've looked at areas with significant development. Think about like downtown Denver, folks like that. And we've put them into tier 1, kind of low wildfire risk. And this is 365 days a year. We consider them to be in tier 1, low wildfire risk. For tier 2, areas where significant wildfire may cause significant damage to human infrastructure due to fuel continuity and terrain. That's a lot of Eagle County. That's a lot of Minturn. And then same thing with tier 3, right? Where we feel that there will be catastrophic wildfires. So these tiers, the areas are kind of year round in these tiers, if that makes sense.
Could you show us Minturn on that map?
Let's see. I can. It's going to make it. Let me see. What I can do. I don't think I'm connected to the internet right now. I don't know why this isn't working. What I can do is, like I just clicked here. I'm going to send you guys this, and you can get really granular in it. But Minturn's basically in tier 2 and tier 3. You guys have some significant wildfire risk. Okay. 2025 to 2027 wildfire mitigation plan that we presented to the PUC and has been approved by the PUC. We're spending a lot of money on it. The things that I would like to point out and bring to attention here, we are doing some undergrounding work, about 50 miles, not a ton. We are on a very aggressive pole replacement campaign, making sure that we have some very sturdy infrastructure in the field. Our operational mitigation, 100% of our feeders have been enabled with the enhanced power line safety settings, the EPSS settings, which we're going to talk about in a little bit more detail. And then we've increased our situational awareness, 3 times the amount of AI cameras in the field these days, which have really been very impactful on identifying wildfires in advance and allowing us to get ahead of those. Here, there we go. All right, this is just highlighting some, system maintenance and upgrades, a lot of preventative measures, vegetation management. We've gotten a little bit more aggressive on our vegetation management work. We're using a software called TechnoSalva, which kind of helps us identify where an ignition point may occur based on our system and based on the forecasted winds, how quickly that fire could spread and where it would spread to. So a lot of situational awareness around this. I want to make sure I get to. Okay. Sorry, I usually walk and talk, so I'm trying really hard to stay by the mic. Enhanced power safety setting is it is our largest tool in our toolbox. What does this mean? EPSS settings. When we are operating our lines in normal settings, we have what we call automatic reclosures on those settings. So something trips that line or faults that line, a bird, a branch, anything, you get that kind of momentary flicker of light, if you will. The line de-energizes and then automatically recloses and re-energizes. When we are operating in enhanced power safety settings, those automatic reclosures are turned off. And we then need to deploy our crews to inspect those lines and ensure that there is nothing sitting on those lines that could reignite and cause catastrophic wildfire. I think the really important thing to point out here with enhanced power safety settings is that you have energy. Like your lights are turned on, right? Everything's good to go. Our system is just operating in a little bit more delicate settings, if you will. I also think it's very important to point out that if we're talking about a public safety power shutoff or something like that elsewhere in the state, the probability of losing power through the high wind event while you're in enhanced power safety settings is pretty high, even if you're not part of that scope for the public safety power shutoff. Okay, public safety power shutoff, PSPS events. This is absolutely a tool of last resort for us. We are not in the business of turning people's power off. We are in the business of keeping people's power on, right? So these are very hard decisions for us to make. We are looking at 3 different things. We're looking at extreme wind speed, low relative humidity, and low fuel moisture content. What is the difference between enhanced power safety settings and public safety power shutoff? Like I mentioned before, EPSS allows our lines to remain active, right? They are still energized. Public safety power shutoff events, we are notifying you in advance of de-energizing your lines. We are giving you a heads up. Hey, we are concerned about the weather forecast. We feel that there is potential to have catastrophic wildfire occur. We are going to proactively de-energize your lines. And we're going to communicate that to you in advance. This is kind of our event process, if you will. So what are we doing? How are we preparing for this? About 72 hours out, sometimes it's a little bit more, sometimes it's a little bit less. We're starting to think about that go decision, that increased situational awareness. We know that the wind speeds are going to be very high. We know that we've got that low fuel moisture content and that low relative humidity, right? And the meteorologists are starting to flag. Everybody's starting to the rumblings are starting to happen. And we're probably meeting like 5 to 6 times a day. This is a very, very dynamic time in our planning process. And a lot of different things are happening. We're seeing who we can scope in, who we can scope out. That's what we're really trying to do, is work on our feeder lines and see who we can get out of that public safety power shutoff. Really quickly, I said feeder lines. I like to describe our transmission lines as like your I-25s, your 70, your major highways, right? Your feeder lines I like to think of as kind of like your state highways, things like that. And then you've got your distribution lines, which are kind of those lines coming into driveways, parking lots, things like that. Okay, so we're trying to de-scope as many people out of that public safety power shutoff as possible. That 48 to 72 hours, that's some real deliberate planning. We're reaching out to the offices of emergency management across the state. We're really talking to the folks that are within that public safety power shutoff. We're trying to figure out what the next steps are and how we can make this as least impactful on communities as possible. We're also doing a lot of messaging here. I think that this is a really, really important one. You know, when we conducted our first public safety power shutoff in April of 2024, our communication sucked. It was not very good. We weren't prepared for it, but we knew we had to do it. The one place that we've gotten really, really good in these last few executions of public safety power shutoffs is in the lead up, our communications out to communities in advance of an event. This is when 9 News and all those folks are starting to pick it up. You know what I mean? Like it's pretty public at that point. Around the 48 to 72 hour mark is where we're also messaging medically vulnerable customers because we want to give them as much advanced planning as possible. PSPS weather event, we're de-energizing. You don't have power. Restoration. I want to talk about restoration and we're going to talk about it in some more detail, but restoration is very, very tough, very tough. And then we do a ton of post-event analysis to see how we can get better. This just, again, our communications playbook, it kind of highlights a lot of the things that I just went through, but you know, a lot of messaging is starting to go out around this event. I'm going to get into some details. You guys are probably well aware, we executed 2 public safety power shutoffs, one on December 17th on the Front Range, one on the 19th. It was not as impactful, I think, over here, but like, for instance, Summit County lost power on overnight from December 17th into December 18th through the high wind event, right? Not through the public safety power shutoff, but through damage through the high wind event. We had a lot of damage in Summit County, snapped poles all over the place, and that does take time for us to restore. Now, with that said, I got calls from folks in Summit that day, like, Blair, what'd you guys do? Did you just pull the rug out from underneath us and all of a sudden execute a public safety power shutoff? And the answer was no, we absolutely did not. However, we experienced a lot of damage through that high wind event. It was December. We were not even operating in enhanced power safety settings in that time. Okay, so going to kind of how we scope. I really want to just, I mean, a lot of this, everything on this slide is great, but really what I like to take away on this slide is kind of these polygons. This is how we're scoping for these events. So those numbers on that screen, those are feeder lines, and how we're getting that to our distribution lines, the energy to our distribution lines. And we're looking at those polygons and we're looking at who is within those polygons, what feeders we have there, what switching can we do from one feeder to another if we have critical customers online. We're trying to make this as least impactful as possible, knowing that it's going to be impactful, right? What I like about this slide, on the right-hand side, you'll kind of see some of the conditions that we saw on the December 19th event. But what I really like about this slide is on the left-hand side, it kind of gives you the criteria for the red flag warnings, and then it gives you our criteria. We have to be more nimble than just red flag warnings, right? We would be in PSPS events and things like that all the time if we just went with red flag warnings. So again, we know the wind blows in Colorado. We're looking for wind speeds greater or equal to the 99th percentile of historic recorded winds. Again, that low relative humidity, low fuel vegetation moisture. Keep that typo. Those are our communication milestones. Let's see. I want to talk about restoration. This is just some of the damage that we saw along the Front Range through the December 17th and December 19th event. Restoration is really, really, really hard. It's hard for us to estimate the damage that we're going to see. And then it's hard for us to get, it's not hard for us to get crews out there, but we're now deploying crews to not only fix the damage, but also ensure that there is nothing sitting on those lines to reignite and cause a point of ignition. So they're doing 2 times the work now, right? Lessons learned. As I've mentioned, our communications have gotten way better. You're going to know if your power is going to be turned off proactively. You're going to know. We're getting better at critical customers, critical premises. So we're working with Birch over at the county and trying to identify the wastewater treatment plants, the lift stations, the hospitals, you know, who do we need to keep online? How, if they are offline, how do we get them back online as quickly as possible? We're getting better at that. Where we can improve our outage map. It's already getting a little bit better. You can now click on it and you can see if you're in a PSPS, things like that. But we had never contemplated having 2 overlapping public safety power shutoffs kind of occurring at the same time. It absolutely crashed our outage map and it was a nightmare and no one could figure out what was going on. It's getting better, again, to where you can see the areas affected by public safety power shutoffs. We know we need to improve there. Accurate restorations. That's another place we need to improve. It is hard for us to estimate the damage and stuff, but we also need to get better at getting that power back on. Again, full transparency, there were some people that were de-energized on December 17th and did not get power back until December 21st. It was impactful, very impactful. Preparing for outages. This is kind of what we want folks to do to be prepared. Again, I've said it a number of times. We know this is not ideal. We are not in the business of turning people's power off. We are in the business of keeping people's power on. However, we feel like it is our obligation to the communities that we serve to protect from catastrophic wildfire. And that is the goal of this program and the public safety power shutoff, as well as the enhanced power safety settings. One thing I forgot to mention around enhanced power safety settings. A lot of times I get asked, I would really like to know if I'm in an enhanced power safety setting or not. That's a tough one for us because we don't want to cry wolf, right? We want people to be, you know, nimble and ready for it. The reality is, right now, we're operating our lines in enhanced power safety settings quite often. And I think about, we all lived in the mountains long enough. When it's a hot, dry day outside, you're not going to go burn that brush pile, right? Even if it says you can, like you're not going to do that. If it's that kind of day, we're probably operating our lines in enhanced power safety settings. And there's a potential that there could be longer, more extended outages as a result of the way that we're operating our lines. All right, Rob, I rocked through that. He did not want me up here for an hour.
But we appreciate you very much.
Really, I'm here to take questions. So again, I don't want to rush on.
I have a question.
Let's go.
Well, first, I love your enthusiasm about energy and protecting everybody. Like, it's fun.
I love this. It's
Yeah.
really exciting stuff.
Yeah. I was just checking my text messages on December 17th because our power went out. I'm not sure if everybody else's did too, but so I'm guessing the message that I got was just your power's out.
Yes.
But it wasn't, we did this on purpose.
Yes.
Is that because it was just out?
Yes.
Okay.
That is a great question. And I think that is where people get confused more often than not. We want to communicate with you as much as possible. I say that a little bit in jest because we are a 100-year utility company that's much better at keeping the lights on than necessarily communicating, but we're getting better at it. And so we do want to communicate with you and say, hey, estimated restoration about 2 hours. Let me be clear. We're going to say that almost every single time because that is how long on average it normally takes us, is about 2 hours. If we're operating and we're really hitting like some real roadblocks like we did in Summit County, I don't think it was as, excuse me, I don't think it was as bad over here. We're going to message like, hey, it might be a little bit extended, things like that. It's that advance notice, like we will be de-energizing, you will be losing power, getting that messaging in advance, you're a part of a public safety power shutoff. You guys lost power through that high wind event, and that's what we're trying to message you at the time. That I feel like as elected officials, you guys are going to get those calls and those questions like, hey, they just changed the game plan on us and all of a sudden, turn off our power, because that is what happened in Summit County. People were very confused because all you're hearing on the news when this is happening is public safety power shut off, public safety power shut off. But we're trying really hard to keep everyone that we can energized for as long as possible. Yeah. Great question. Thank you.
I guess on a tiny Minturn status, when are they gonna be done with this gas line down 24 on the east side? Considering their past precedent, I'm not optimistic. So they got an update?
I do not have a great update on that, Rob. I don't know if you do. I think you met with Annie and them recently, the engineer on that.
Yeah, they've been making progress. I think we're expecting the contractor Phoenix to start work maybe next week on the actual sidewalk. So we're getting closer. We've had some hiccups, but it's been okay.
We were very committed to making sure that you were the top of our schedule.
I'm sure.
When
I have no doubt.
yes, absolutely. Yes. Apologies for the delay.
No.
With the weather events, is there any coordination with Holy Cross because we're so close?
Yes, absolutely. Mainly because we have a lot of transmission lines that go through Eagle County. And then, yes, we have a lot of communications with all of our co-ops in the area. They are in the loop. And what's happening is we have what we call a resiliency manager. And so her name's Tiernan Doyle. And she reaches out to Birch and that team, the Office of Emergency Management, as well as like the Holy Cross and co-op and all of that. And that's when we bring everybody in and we start having about I think it's 3 Office of Emergency Management / co-op. I mean, they're included in this calls per day, just prepping. And because, sometimes these scopes start very, very large, right? It's a very wide area of concern. And we really try to narrow that scope as much as possible. And we work pretty closely with Holy Cross on that. So yeah, absolutely. We're talking to them. Great question. Thank you.
I keep seeing, I don't know, they belong to AARP and they send stuff out that Excel's planning on a 10% rate increase. Is that correct or?
Yes, sir, that is correct. We have been charged by the state to build, to get to 80% carbon reduction levels by 2030. And we believe we'll hit that. We are on track to probably hit at about 88% carbon reduction. I'll tell anyone that'll listen, that last 10 to 15% is going to be the hard push where we need everybody kind of rowing in everybody in the same direction, right? We're being charged to get to about 100% by 2050. We actually thought that we were going to see a bill moving that goal to about 2040 in the legislature. It didn't go through this year, so we'll see. With that said, we have built large wind and solar gardens on both the Eastern Plains and the Western Slope, and they're kind of where people don't live, and we need to continue to build the infrastructure to get that energy, that renewable energy kind of to where people do live. That's a lot of it, a lot of people think it's the data centers. We had a really great deal go through with Google in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, where they're required to pay their full load. And it's actually going to balance out rates in a better way for ratepayers across that state. We were hopeful and optimistic that we would get a similar bill pushed through the legislature this session, and we did not. There was one pro and there was one anti bill, and really neither one of them went through. So we're kind of in a holding pattern right now. But yes, sir, there is a 10% rate increase in front of the PUC right now. Thank you. Yes, sir. You guys are pretty good to me. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Rob and Jay both have my contact information. Please, I'm here and available. I can be over very quickly if you guys ever need anything. So thanks again for having me.
Thank you.
Blair, I have
Yes,
two
sir.
wins for you.
Yes,
One
sir.
of them is Blair was the one last year that took all of my phone calls, never batted an eye at it, when we were getting 30 to 50 complaints in the morning and 30 to 50 in the evening when they were doing the S-turns. I still have trouble with Sitewise or whatever it is, just seeing them at a stoplight.
Fair.
I would highly encourage you not use them. The second one is they have a great website. When the power does go out, it shows what's out, that it's been called in, that kind of a thing. And then there's one strike I have, and that is the 10% that Gusty was asking about. Is that above what's already been put in? Because I think you'll be surprised at this. I have a spreadsheet that goes back about 10 years, 15 years. In February and January, I was about 15% up in cost, but my kilowatt and therms were actually down from. And when I went to the average of what I was looking at, went back about a year, and it was a summer month when I didn't have the heat on.
Mhm.
I was like 10% above like July of 24.
We should probably get a customer service rep to look at your bills specifically, Jay, just giving those numbers. I can't speak to that specifically, but what I can say is that we have not put a true rate increase in front of the PUC for quite some time.
Okay.
We have some of the lowest rates in the state at 14 cents per kilowatt hour, where most of our competitors are up around 18 cents, something like that. So we do pride ourselves on keeping rates low, and what we're really trying to do is keep it below that 1% of dollar share of wallet, if you will. And what we're going to do in order to do that is we're going to increase some of our income qualified programs. I think that we are putting some investor dollars into that, as well as upping those programs. So again, we know that it is impactful. What I will say is that I like to describe us as an infrastructure company. We build the infrastructure that moves the molecules through, right? So we're a pass through when it comes to electric, like I'm sorry, maybe not electric, when it comes to like natural gas. So like it's the worldwide commodity, right? When it gets really cold, the cost of that goes up. So what we try to do for instance, natural gas is we try to see that and purchase enough in advance so that we don't have to buy at that higher rate when when, everybody needs it, right? And so we try to stockpile as much as we can at those lower rates. But I think it's important to note that we really are, when it comes to that commodity, we're really just a pass through. We're making rate recovery on the infrastructure that we put in the ground, essentially. So, but you and I should connect offline on that.
Okay, thank you though.
Yeah, absolutely.
I just have a couple of questions. And I just want to clarify, Excel is a for-profit corporation, and you make a significant profit each year, and you are regulated, your rates are regulated by PUC, and those are always fiercely contested whenever you apply for a rate increase.
Yes, ma'am.
And there's a lot of complex accounting things going on there. But are you saying, everybody knows that the price of oil has nearly doubled recently. Have you purchased enough? Are you, let me put it this way, are you anticipating that you're going to have a significant request for a price increase because of that, in addition to the 10%?
No, ma'am.
Okay, because you've already, and why is that?
We've put forth the 10% rate increase, and we do not anticipate putting forth another one.
Okay, and the other question I have relates to the map that you showed.
Go back to that.
And that's the one you use for planning purposes.
Yes.
So Eagle County has just the Eagle River Fire Protection District just reproduced a wildfire maps for each month. And apparently, according to their maps and other maps I've seen, we're in the most extreme danger possible for June, July, and August. But according to their map, once we hit September, we're back to a complete normal. There's no particular extra fire danger at all. Does Excel take those things into account in their planning?
No, we're really focused on our assets and in protecting around our assets. So while they're looking at, what's specific to their district, we're very focused on the vegetation around our assets. We're very focused on what could ignite around our assets. So I would say no, not as much. We are more focused on our assets, what we can control, and how we can operate our system as responsibly as possible.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you again for having me.
Thank you. All right, we will move on to business items. We got first up ordinance number 5, series 2026, first reading. Is that Jay or Mike?
I'll take this one.
Perfect.
Yep. So a couple of recent events caused us to take a deeper look at the town's code provisions related to charges that the town imposes on service users. The legislature recently passed some amendments related to recovery of what are called convenience fees. That's when you use a credit card or some other mechanism that's not cash to pay a bill, and recoupment of those fees. Town was also in litigation with a service user here in the community, where when we looked at the code, we thought, this could be a little bit clearer than it currently is. So we have put forward an ordinance to you for consideration. I thought I'd just walk you through the kind of the different parts. So first of all, the town currently, with respect to its different utilities and other ways in which people pay fees to the town, we have a very shotgun approach. There's just a lot of code provisions that say you'll pay a fee, you'll pay a fee, you'll pay a fee. We now have a unified provision, establishment of a fee schedule. You've been adopting a fee schedule on an annual basis for a long time that essentially took all those different areas of the code, tried to put it all in place, make it a little bit more user friendly. And so we have more pronounced recognize that in the code. Second, convenience fees. We've adopted the language the state legislature has imposed, which essentially says if you choose to pay in a manner other than cash and the municipality incurs a charge for that, you get to recover that charge from the user. Third, return payment, dishonored payment fees. Again, your code had a number of provisions related to if people didn't pay. We've tried to consolidate those into one place, noting that the town does incur costs when people either don't make a payment or make a payment that is somehow returned for insufficient funds, or perhaps they call the bank and cancel the payment. And so again, we've taken provisions throughout the code, we put it in one place that says that if there's a non-payment or a dishonored check fee, that your schedule that you adopt on an annual basis will have the fee that you pay for that cost. We've added a provision about late payment of fees, or again, in areas of the code where they previously existed, we've now got a unified statement about late payments and how they are charged. That includes a one-time fee of $35, interest at the rate of 1.5%, that accrues after a grace period. We have included a waiver provision that if you have if you didn't make your payment because of some kind of extreme financial situation that you're enduring, that we don't want to make it worse with additional fees and costs. So the manager has the ability to waive those fees, late fees. And then finally, collection costs. Again, there are different places in your code that talk about the town's ability to recoup costs in the event that it has to collect for non-payment. We've, added a fairly standard provision in there that consolidates that, saying that if we have to go after you for payment of for services that the town has provided that you've chosen not to pay for, you are responsible for attorney's fees and court costs and other fees associated with that collection. So this is kind of housekeeping items. Again, most of what you see here was already in your code in different places, and we were just trying to create a more easier, more user-friendly way to access that information.
Any questions? Seeing none. All right, well, now in that case, I will open the public comment. And if the public have any questions, thoughts, or feedback on the ordinance? None. Cindy, anybody online?
No one with their hand raised.
All right. I will close public comment.
And I'll make a motion to approve the town of Minturn, Colorado ordinance number 5, series 2026. Ordinance of the town of Minturn, Colorado allow for the collection of a convenience fee on payments subject to processing fees and the collection of dishonored payment fees and penalties.
I'll second that.
We got a motion by Tom and a second by Lynn. Let's do roll call, please.
Spence, aye.
Lindsay, I.
Lynn, I.
Dusty, aye.
Eric, aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Mike. Always good to clean up the code.
Bridge.
Yeah, next up, on one, resolution number 31, series 2026. Authorizing contract with Hallmark Inc. for Minturn Road Bridge Repair Contract.
Believe that's Jeff and possibly Rob who are gonna do that. Do we still have Jeff on Zoom?
He is still showing up. Jeff, are you still there? Oh, there we go.
Yes, I'm muted, that's all. I don't know what's going on with that, but can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay. I don't know. Shut that off. Well, what happened on the bridge is Rob had gotten some complaints, and they've been ongoing for a while. There is an abandoned section of bridge that lies beneath the functioning bridge on Minturn Road where it crosses the Eagle River down near the Forest Service offices in Dow Junction. That chunk of bridge is not connected to the upper structure. We're not sure. It may be connected at the foundation, but it provides no vertical support whatsoever for the upper bridge. So I made an appointment to go out and look at it, I don't know, a week or 10 days ago. I haven't been out there in a while. And when I got there, I was very surprised to see that the bridge, the old bridge structure underneath was falling apart. There was a big chunk of concrete hanging by a rebar, and other pieces ready to fall into the river. The piece that's falling off, if you look at the pictures that I attached to my letter, were the sides of the bridge, and when they demolished the upper portion of that bridge, they left all the dirt and broken parts and debris on top of what was an arch, and it was held in by the sides of the bridge, which are now falling apart. So not only are the sides of the bridge ready to fall in the river, but everything that was wasted on top of the arch is also falling in the river. So I talked to Rob about it, and I approached the Army Corps of Engineers, and they classified it as an emergency repair and are ready to allow us to go in there with a very quick permit to take it out. It's virtually no permit. And we don't need any other approvals other than the Army Corps of Engineers. And so I wrote a quick request for proposal. I talked to 3 contractors that the Eagle River Water and Sand had used in the past. 2 of them submitted proposals. They were much more expensive than I had imagined, but the high bid was roughly $445,000, and the lower bid was just over $400,000 to remove it. And in speaking to the contractors, the difficulty is that low headroom yields there's no way to get a big piece of equipment underneath there to break it up and get it out of there. In addition, we have to restrict dropping debris in the river, and all of that leads to it being a very expensive undertaking. And then I also called some local excavation contractors, and they told me that
that kind of working in the river is kind of requires a specialty contractor. And the 3 contractors that I contacted are all specialists in working in the river. The low bid I talked to is from Hallmark and they're out of Thornton. I talked to them about is there some ways to save money. One suggestion that we made and they agreed to was if we can close Minturn Road during construction, we would save between $40,000 and $50,000 in traffic control by closing the road during construction. It would require anyone on Minturn Road would have to come out over Bellum Bridge during construction. I intend to speak to them and find out if it's possible to reopen the bridge every night so that it would only be closed during the working hours during the day. But I have not had a chance to do that yet because that just came up. The other thing that Hallmark brought up, and I have not spoken to the Corps of Engineers about this, they are anxious to see this removed as well, would be to leave the arch part of the bridge. There's I don't know how thick it is, but if you can imagine, there's just a half circle that crosses the river that we could leave in place. We could take the sides of it off and clean all the debris off the top of it. It would look a little bit strange, but it looks strange now. And that, I think, was almost a $200,000 savings to leave that in place. So that's where we're at. It is, the Corps of Engineers classified it as an emergency because there's a life safety component here. If that big chunk of concrete that you're looking at would fall on somebody going under the bridge in a raft or on a kayak, there would be pretty dire consequences.
And Jeff, you had some conversations with Deborah via email this afternoon, our grant writer.
I did that today, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So go ahead, Rob.
Well, I'm just curious, and I saw that Deborah sent an email over to Kate at DOLA, so we may be able to get a little bit of help here.
Correct. I called her and I just on a chance that she may know of some emergency fund that we could tap into, and any kind of state or federal funds in particular, there just wouldn't be time to go through that process. But so she did send an email to DOLA and she's looking around for us. So yes, there is, I don't know how remote it is, but there is a possibility that we could turn up some financial help for this.
And Jay, I don't know if you just want to add a point. I mean, we know we can pay for this. It is significant cost for us, but we've been very conservative about spending money this year on capital. And so we think that we can cover this without actually requiring additional budgeting for the year. And I know you've been kind of looking at that roughly, Jay.
Yes, correct. A couple of things have happened. One of them is from last summer to this summer, Taylor actually went down in cost. Rob spoke, it won't affect the budget. It will. We'll have to supplement the budget. This will come out of savings. This will not come out of the 6-month reserve or anything like that. But like any money, you can only spend it one time. The option of going, first off, this has been a long time in the making. If you want to look at the bridge, when it was the old bridge, we've got a picture of it upstairs. This has been kicked down the road a long time, and to save $200,000 just to do it later, it's going to cost more later too. I kind of agree with Jeff. This is something we need to fix because it could be a life safety issue. It could, the bridge, we hope is intact. Jeff's looked at it, so I'm comfortable with it. We do have the money to pay for it. We'll have to supplement appropriate when we get to that part of the budget. But I'm comfortable that we've got the money.
The other thing that is adding to the reason it's so expensive to demolish that bridge that's underneath is protecting the existing bridge and making sure that they don't damage it when they take the other one out. If the upper bridge was not there, they could get a big piece of equipment in, break it in half, and just drag it out of there. But in this case, they're going to have to use smaller equipment to break it up and get it out of there.
Jay, where is the money coming from to do the Bellum Bridge?
We have not saved that money. I mean, to do a $4 to $8 million bridge, we don't have that.
We've got
a grant.
We got 2 million from the state, from CDOT.
Right.
I think it's approximately 2 million. We have a pending congressional directed spending request that's Congressman Neguse has got for us to help us fill the rest of the gap. So we're really leaning on grant money for that one.
Right.
Because that bridge is not the crisis, the other one is, but it's also dangerous. And it's losing its underpinning, it's crumbling away. I don't think, and maybe I'm over speaking, but I think there's no question that we've got to do something about the Minturn Bridge immediately. And the question in my mind, particularly given our financial constraints, is whether we go ahead and spend the $440,000 or we leave the curve in place, saving us $190,000. And if we close the highway for a couple of months of construction, I mean, not the highway, the bridge for a couple of months of construction, if we could get another $50,000 off in addition to that, that to me seems like that might be given all the ongoing financial issues that we have with respect right now, that might be the more prudent way to go. That's my question.
Lynn, if I could throw two things in there. Jay was correct. The mobilization for getting equipment down there to tear this out was about $75,000. So remobilizing is going to, a year from now or whenever we take the arch out, is going to be considerably more expensive than what we're going to save.
That arch eventually is going to have to be removed, isn't it, Jeff?
What's that? I'm sorry.
That arch is eventually going to have to be removed, isn't it?
I think so, because I think the town has heard complaints for a long time from people who use that stretch of the river about the low head clearance. And in fact, that's why I went out there and discovered this, is because of some complaints, because it's springtime and the kayakers are starting to use the river again. The other thing I did want to say is the Bellum Bridge is, we're monitoring that bridge. The CDOT inspections for that bridge are, it has a critical scour problem. And what the scour is it's erosion in the river that's going underneath the foundation for that bridge. And so what we're doing is, through the fall and summer, we have a surveyor going out and taking measurements on the bridge to see if it's moving. And CDOT is happy. Their inspectors are happy with the results of that. It hasn't moved yet, but what they're saying is, if there would be a flood condition, a huge spring runoff or something like that, that we may have to close it for that, because that's when the real danger would occur, is If we had a big rush of water going under that bridge and it undermined the foundation to a critical point, that bridge could move.
Jeff,
Mhm.
what I want to know is, what's the likelihood that we can keep that curve or that arch under the bridge, even though it may be a pain to kayakers?
Mhm.
I'm wondering if we could keep that in all likelihood for another 10 years, versus if we think it's going to need to be removed in a year or two. To me, that would make it a difference in what we should do. And I would like that information.
We can go back and evaluate that. I can get a structural engineer to go back with me and look at that arch. It, to my eye, it doesn't seem to be falling apart. The contractor said the same thing. It's just the faces of the bridge they're breaking apart and falling in the river. And that's why it came up. The contractor actually made that suggestion. The other group that I have not had a chance to discuss it with is the Army Corps of Engineers. I don't think they would care. I think if we address the life safety issues, they're going to be happy. But I think that we do need to discuss that with the Corps and make sure they're not going to come up with a requirement to do something different.
Seems like we need more information.
We're gonna save 184,000 and spend 350 and 400 in the next 2 or 3 years. I mean, that concrete's coming down.
Well,
Not,
to that point, not exactly. I mean, if I'm reading this letter correctly, Jeff,
Mhm.
we have two different issues. One is the concrete that's coming down that needs to be removed.
Mhm.
The arch is more of an annoyance for head clearance and has nothing to do as of right now until you take a structural engineer out there, as you just said, from all current perspective is completely sound, correct? Assuming the structural engineer concurs with that.
Correct. That's the
And
notion right
it's
now.
more of just annoying that as a kayaker, I'm gonna have to lay back on the back stern of my boat to get under the bridge, and that's it. Right?
Yes.
So to be bluntly honest, we're appealing to how many people, and we're gonna spend this amount of money because the head clearance is annoying.
But it's part of the arch is already falling apart. The other part isn't going to be.
That's
not,
not always.
not.
But that is part of the arch. From the south side of the bridge, that 3 pieces of concrete are coming down are part of the arch. The other part, the rest is 75% of the bridge is that same concrete that will be coming down in 2 to 5 years.
That's just not how I'm reading this.
I think we need to know there's a discrepancy here. And I think we need to find out. It's a lot of money that we don't have. So I think we need to find out. And of course, we're going to spend the money to make it safe right now. But whether we should commit the additional money right now, which we don't have, I believe, except by taking it out of our emergency savings. I think if there is a possibility that this arch or a probability that this arch will be good for 10, 20 years, I think we should not take it out right now because I think we should just solve the immediate problem. If that's not true, then it's a different proposition. But I think we need to find out, and I don't think any of us are engineering experts.
But how long does that analysis take before we come back with another resolution and there's one piece of rebar holding this up?
There's no question the sides of the bridge that are falling off need to be addressed. That's where the big danger is right now. I would think in a few days we can get an engineer out there, a structural engineer, to inspect that arch. I can get the contractor back up here and get the two of them to put their heads together on the arch and get back to the town right away with that. The notion that arch is going to last 20 years makes me a little bit uncomfortable, because that bridge, the best of our uh, research, was probably built in 1920. And so it's pretty old. And I don't know, about the concrete. That would be a question for the structural engineer and the contractor as to how long they thought we could put off taking the arch part of it out.
Well, that's
Just
what
one-
I'd like to do, Jeff, is make you uncomfortable. To that point, as Lynn is bringing up, I think we're all in violent agreement that we don't want to be in a pay me now or pay me later scenario. However, we only have 2 bridges, and the other one is pretty critical, and we are relying on Congress, which up to this point is not a body I want to rely on, for a significant amount of money to pay for the Bellum Bridge. So there's quite a possible situation where there is a difference remaining to pay off the bridge. So as Lynn is pointing out right now, if we didn't have the Bellum, okay, but we did. So pending the engineer's assessment, if he or she is like 10, 15 years, then we need to revisit the amount of money we're going to spend on this kayaker situation. That's my 2 cents.
Also, Jeff, with if we do shut this down and able to save 40,000 and they maybe just do it during the day, would that put more of an impact? I'm sure it would put more of an impact. I guess my question would be, do we want to put like a weight limit on the Bellum Bridge that no cement trucks can be going over that during that time?
That's what the CDOT inspections, they go out there every couple of years and inspect all the bridges that are, I think that's called an off-system bridge, and then provide reports. And Minturn has 3 bridges that they look at. It's this bridge we're looking at now, the Bellum Bridge and the Cemetery Bridge. And there currently are no load limits recommended for any of those bridges. About a year, 2 years ago, it's been longer than that. That's when we first looked at that scour problem for the bridge. That was a result of one of these inspections coming back saying it was a critical repair that needed to be done within a year, if I remember right. And so we talked to the engineers that were doing the inspections for CDOT, and that's when the recommendation to start monitoring that bridge, that's where that came from. And so we've been monitoring it faithfully once a month for a few years now. So
if we shut down Minturn Bridge so they can do work on it, we're not going to overload the Bellum Bridge then with having the traffic that's using the Minturn Bridge using the Bellum Bridge.
You do bring up a good point that you're going to be putting more concrete trucks on it, because one of the things that we told Minturn North was that they had to bring construction traffic across up Minturn Road and not across the Bellum Bridge. Again, the CDOT inspection report did not put load limits on that bridge. So, I think if we're going to do it, if it would make you more comfortable, we could step up the monitoring of that bridge and maybe do it twice a month instead of once a month.
Okay, thanks.
Just for the council's edification, one thing that I just want you to know, if this helps you kind of navigate this, I think we could take more time and come back to you and look at the alternatives of kind of scaling it. But the other thing to know is for what we've budgeted for capital this year, we can definitely underspend that, because there's certain things that are not urgent. And so we budgeted for replacing the roof on the town hall, but that's not something we've moved forwarded on. We budgeted over $100,000 for streetlights, but that's taking quite a bit of time. So we can come up with probably $300,000 in things that we won't do to kind of cover this unexpected cost, if that is reassuring to you, of trying to just kind of take care of it. But I'm not opposed to us just kind of taking a little bit more time and looking at options.
I would like to say that, I get that there's an emergency about this, but I think in our favor was the low snow year that we had and the runoff, the peak runoff already happened. So as somebody who has also enjoyed floating through that river stretch, and have sometimes almost knocked my noggin on it, I feel like could we put in a mandatory portage for now and look into more economic, or fiscally responsible moves for this for later in the summer when the water level is going to be even lower, and make the construction a lot easier for these guys, because I mean 8 weeks is a long time, and I think some of it would have to do with the water being a little bit higher at this moment. So I think if we can get a few more ideas on how we can make this a little less costly and easier for construction, that's what I would like to see.
I think that's a good idea.
Mike, is there risk here that the town has that we need to move urgently?
Of course, there's risk.
I mean, I think parts of this would be covered by governmental immunity, but I think implementing something similar to a mandatory portage. I mean, we've put a sign up right now, haven't we? Yeah.
Couple.
Yeah. So I mean, in addition to the sign saying danger ahead, saying get out.
I'm not sure the sign is good. I think the sign could be clearer.
It also flips up a lot.
The mandatory portage is actually going to be part of the contractor safety plan, the river safety plan during construction. Is they will require the kayaks and rafts to stop upstream of the bridge and get back in the river downstream of the bridge, because
I think also we need to realize that the water levels, like we don't have as much water as we're used to seeing at this time of year. So like the kayakers are almost done. And I can't imagine a raft is even going to go through there. It's so bony right now. So I get the emergency, but I also think like Mother Nature might be in our favor this year for this.
Well, I have two questions for Jeff. In talking with the contractor, Jeff, did they indicate how long they're willing to hold the bid price open? And then what is their schedule for mobilization? Like how much notice do we need to give them? Because that also plays into when do we need to make a decision? Do we have some flexibility on time?
both contractors and the Corps of Engineers are asking how fast we can move. Both contractors could mobilize in a week, they said. And I would say this, as far as the water level, they're going to be working as much as they can from the side. And neither of them, in fact, all three of them, when I talked to them, none of them made any noises about water levels affecting the price, but it's certainly a question I can ask tomorrow.
No, we're not saying water level and impact the price. It's water level in regards to river traffic, which bottom line is it's going to be so low. You're going to walk through the river. That's about it.
Yeah. But like I say, I don't think that's going to affect the demolition contractor that much the way it sounds, but
well, I'd say a 1 week mobilization capability, and your statement that you could get a structural engineer out there in the next essentially couple of days.
Yes.
I think is well within our time frame to revisit at the next meeting and make a decision.
Or could we pass it tonight? Basically with staff's direction when they meet with the engineer, and then that way we wouldn't have to wait 2 weeks. I'm just worried about that piece dangling there.
I'm worried about the piece dangling. The other thing I'm worried about is contractors line up jobs.
Yeah,
sometimes they're like, well, I got another job, so you're out of luck.
Yeah.
Well,
I do think
we could also write the contract for, again, assuming the Corps of Engineers goes along with this, we could write the contract for the basic, just taking down the dangerous part of it, the outside face and the debris on top of the arch, and have them and write the contract with an alternate to take down the arch if we had to. That would, I mean, if the council's in the mood to to move quickly, that would allow you to get a contractor moving, mobilized. And that's the first thing they have to do anyway, is take down the dangling pieces of concrete and clean the top of it off before they could do anything with the arch anyway. So that
I
would
like
be
that
an
approach.
alternative to get started.
And on a temporary emergency basis, I mean, for $1,000 or $2,000, it seems to me we could put a net along there with the sign that, you know, is prohibited, but also something that would make going through there physically impossible on the river.
I'm not sure that the Corps of Engineers would allow us to put a fence or a net across the face of that bridge, because it would catch debris coming down the river and could become a dam.
The only net you can put is under
Or
the
just
bridge.
some papers.
What the contractor, Lynn, what the contractor said they would do is put a float line across the water, a nylon rope with floats on it, and then signs saying that, that was where the boats had to get out of the river, is at that rope.
At river level and see, and understand that it was dangerous.
Yeah. Moving on to contractor selection. I thought Diggins was much more put together. They focused on river safety. They do river projects. They've worked with Vail on Gore Creek in a paired waterway. And I thought Hallmarks, although less, was more bridge over the top repair than it was in river work. And I realize they're more expensive, but with our river health being paramount, I thought that was something that was notable in the bids. So, but I'm also swayed if Jeff from Eagle River Water, or if you, Mr. Spinell, are confident in Hallmark's ability to maintain the water safety.
I don't know if confident is, at this point. I have spoken to both contractors. I'm comfortable with both of them at this point. Hallmark spoke very with a lot of knowledge, and I was comfortable with Hallmark after speaking to them. Neither of these contractors are real sophisticated, and I had Hallmark provide me with those resumes to attach to their bid at the last minute, because their bid just came in as the 2 pages of numbers with no background information at all. I mean, I would certainly recommend that we call their references and make sure we're comfortable with them. But in speaking to both contractors on the phone, they both were knowledgeable about what they were doing. And
Jeff, this Mike, so I saw a bid just to remove the side structures from Hallmark. Did Diggin' It also agree to provide a bid for just that scope of work?
I have not discussed that with Diggin' It. The notion of leaving the arch came from Hallmark. That was their suggestion. And so I asked them to give me numbers for savings if we did that. And they did it very quickly, and there wasn't time to go back to Diggin' It and get the letter to Rob in time for the council meeting. But I certainly can go back to Diggin' It and ask them the same question.
This all has been moving very quickly, and I want the council to know how much work Jeff has been doing on this and putting aside other projects that I think he has wanted to work on. So
Thank you, Jeff.
I think we need to move on it fairly quick too. I don't think we should be putting that off till our next board meeting. Just 2 weeks could kill us or kill somebody with the concrete falling off.
Well, it seems to me if we had that extra information in a couple of days, that we could make a decision by Is that what you can't make a decision by email?
We could schedule a special meeting for 20 minutes next week if we needed to.
Mostly I like Jeff's approach, for now, we know the broken piece has to come down. We do that and then we have the arches evaluated. If they say they gotta come down, done deal. If they say they can stay for 10 years, then, they can stay for 10 years and that would save the $184,000.
And the reason I asked the question about whether kind of a lower scope bid had been prepared by the alternate contractor was whether there was a choice to be made. Right now, what we have is we have the A or B options only for one of the two contractors.
Right.
Well, and Mike, the reason I was talking to Hallmark was they were the
low cost bid.
They were the lower proposal to begin with, and considerably lower.
So I think that a motion could be made consistent with what Jeff described and what Gusty has suggested, where you would authorize a contract, essentially in the alternative that it would be for the lower scope of work, assuming that the structural engineer says that the arch section has a somewhat longer life, that you're not just going to be back in the water in a few years trying to get that out too. But if the structural engineer says no, that really should come down now, then you would authorize the scope of work at the larger contract amount.
Mike, add to that the Corps of Engineers approval too, because at this point, the permit is to take it all down.
Yeah, so we would need to amend the permit for that purpose. And I would just note that the bids provided by both contractors, and again, this has been moving very quickly, but they will need to provide a performance bond, and that will add a little bit of cost for whomever we.
They're both aware that they have to provide a performance bond, Mike, and I think it's in their mobilization number. They didn't break it out separately, but the request for proposal that I wrote was very specific that the bond was required.
Good. Okay.
And I can call Digging It in the morning and ask them the same question about what the savings would be for closing the road for traffic control and for leaving the arch. So
how does council feel? I kind of I'd like to have those numbers, but
I would too. Again, I'm just scrolling through their recent projects, their water care quality, their timeline. It's all much more granular. And big cost, a $400,000 project. It's 9% increase over.
Looks like they've done a bunch for the town of Avon too.
Exactly. So I'm more comfortable with them as just from their bid packages. But if we get more references from Hallmark or, but I'm more comfortable with Digging It as a contractor.
Agreed.
Hallmark did provide references from several cities, particularly in the Front Range.
Can I ask a question?
yes.
So Jeff, if the tractor gets in the river and they expose the dangling part and then find out, yeah, no, this isn't going to work, we would only be paying one mobilization. Could they do it that fast? I mean, we start
If
out
they got started
option B and go to option A if we have to.
Yeah, my understanding is the first item of work is going to be taking down the dangling pieces of concrete and then cleaning off the top of the arch. So I don't think we lose any time in investigating, getting a structural engineer out there and evaluating the arch. I don't think we lose any time if we award the contract as an alternate, just that the arch removal is an alternate, that you write the contract for the lower amount with an alternate to add the arch removal. I don't think that would reduce would impact the schedule.
Okay, and then that would give the council time. We might be able to figure something out in the 2 weeks between, but we haven't lost Just action time.
Guess that gives us an option. Should we make a motion to?
I think B and consider A.
Right, but do we need to possibly continue this to get updated bids from?
It's not a notice. I mean, you don't have to continue it. We'll just put it on the next agenda if you wanted to wait 2 weeks to make a final decision about the contract. If you want to make a decision about entering into a contract, and I'm going to make that statement kind of hazy, we can talk about how that motion might be crafted.
What does that get us? If we have
2 weeks.
Yes, that's about what it would get you, because it would be the difference between telling them to go now and having them get mobilized next week, or get mobilized a week after the next council meeting. That's your time frame.
No, I'm saying in regards to just making a decision about entering into a contract generically, but not necessarily one or the other vendor.
Mhm.
Just understanding that.
That's the thought I had. Is that
So
you
what does
could,
that get us?
it would allow the town to enter into a contract this week with one of the two vendors under one of two scenarios. So
Right, but I thought.
He gives them
Do
time
you
to
want to
talk.
wait on numbers between the two?
What?
That's my question.
I didn't know Mike's third option there was an option.
Right.
I think, I mean, I do agree. I think we need to get under contract with somebody, but I would like to have the numbers, so if we can agree to move forward, and then once we have the confirmed numbers of obviously option B, we want to save some money, get feedback from both bidders, and then whichever is kind of the better option according to staff, let them continue.
I mean, for Minturn, it's a significant amount of money. And so, you know, again, I hold out there an option is we schedule, if time is really of the essence and 2 weeks is too long to wait, we can schedule a 25-minute meeting next week. And if you're not available to come in, you can appear via Zoom, and we can get you that updated information and you can make a decision.
That sounds good to
I,
me.
I would be fine with that, so I just worried about waiting 2 weeks and they go get another bid, you know, for doing another project, and then.
Then they're not available.
Yeah.
That is a risk, but I can ask that question tomorrow too.
Right. Jeff, if you're comfortable continuing to do the legwork and that we think we have a week to get our ducks in a row, then I guess we asked, or you would direct Jay to schedule a special meeting for one of the days next week, and we would provide you the opportunity to get additional information to make a decision.
So if we're going to do that, my direction would be to get more information from Hallmark about, just their company and so forth, get some references. We could call references for both contractors. So it would be verifying the ability of both contractors to do the job, and and then getting a bid from Digging It to leave the arch in place and for the traffic control, and verify that there's a savings from them there. And then the third task would be to have the arch inspected by a structural engineer and discuss it with CDOT. I'm not with CDOT, with the Army Corps of Engineers, and make sure that that's a viable thing to do. And I think all of that can be done in the week time frame we're talking about.
Me.
So just point it out, if we extend it out, we're probably looking at next Thursday, the 11th. I don't know who's available, but that's basically 6 days before the next meeting anyway. Are we saving ourselves some time? Are we Is this a river you want to go down? I'm sorry, a road you want to,
Bridge you're gonna go under.
yeah, is this a bridge too far? Is this,
I guess to Mackenzie's point earlier, if we just do a mandatory portage, the water's going down. Is there any risk to anybody?
No,
No,
the risk is more for mobilization.
Or mobilization?
Getting these guys locked in.
Well, that's,
They were already this ready to go, then what about in October, September? Like, yeah.
this is a 6 or 8 week project. We're into the late summer, early fall.
Well,
I mean, based on this timeline, it's basically end of July, they're demo and done. I mean, that, since we're using letters instead of numbers, so option D will be that we agree to some provisions now. So staff has maximum flexibility, i.e. if Hallmark comes back with agreeable references and accommodates the river health issue to our.
Don't give me like that.
I'm a cheerleader for you. I don't know what you're talking about.
If Hallmark has any photos of them in the river and any actual river work as opposed to bridge work, I'm all in favor.
Yeah, so to my point, if we just agree to the provisions now, I think we all agree on the traffic thing, traffic control, which is you shut the road down. If they will open up the road each evening for traffic on the bridge, great. And then move forward. I think assuming the structural engineer in 1 or 2 days comes back and says there's no issue with the arch, this thing will last for another 10 years. We just put all these provisions in now. And then by possibly Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you can enter into a contract. If those provisions are met. If they're not met, then we could, as of right now, schedule a tentative meeting for Thursday that could easily be canceled. If all this is already taken care of and this boat has gone downriver. I'll just keep going with your theme. Does that make sense? Can we do that?
I think you could tentatively authorize your staff to enter into a contract under certain circumstances, and if those circumstances aren't met, that we have a special meeting.
Yeah. That's my proposal. Everybody agree with that idea?
I'm fine with that. I think that's the right way to go. I think we need to move on it fairly quick. I see that concrete dangling every time I go out of town, and it's a liability.
You can't unsee it.
I know you can't unsee it.
So we have to write this down.
Do we need any form
Do we have clear direction now?
I think
There's
if we're tentatively approving a contract, I think we need to have a motion and a vote on that. And with kind of the contingency that Tom has identified.
Well,
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 31, series 2026, a resolution of the town council of the town of Minturn authorizing the town manager to approve and execute a contract with one of the two agent or one of the two people who actually sent in a proposal for the Minturn Bridge repair project, and for staff to evaluate whether the archers can stay or have to go, have the staff evaluate if we're okay to shut it down during working hours to save on flaggers, and upon the Corps of Engineers inspection on the arches, if they can leave it or if it has to go. Did I get everything or did I miss something?
Meeting on Thursday.
And if we don't have any of the answers that staff feels comfortable with, have a special council meeting on Thursday. I don't remember the day
Of next week.
of next week. There we go.
and if the only difference between digging it and Hallmark remains $36,000 and they're both adequate,
Yeah,
it's pretty safe.
and also looking at all the references on both of them.
And then
That's gotta be a really big resolution.
Give it to read the paper.
Right. Who seconded?
Nobody.
Lyndon.
Oh,
second,
I guess,
We
sorry.
got a motion by Gusty, second by Lynn. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes.
All right, so Jeff, you got a few marching orders, and I would say Jeff, Rob, and Mike can reconvene on Friday to discuss where we're at.
Thanks, Jeff, for all your work on that
Thank you,
too.
Jeff.
We appreciate it.
Can I point out something? Jeff was actually the one that brought it to our attention. He was driving out of town and saw it. And this is the kind of thing, see it, say it kind of thing.
That's why you gotta come to meetings.
He really did. It's
That
like,
brings into question Gusty, because he's been driving out of town over and over again. Brent did nothing about it, didn't see.
I just seen it until I knew about it.
but Jeff told me recently that Minturn is a special part in his heart. And I think this shows. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, we have a Little Beach Park playground discussion direction.
Cindy?
Oops, I gotta fix my camera. Okay, still not good.
Cindy's been working the most on this, so she's.
Yeah, Rob might chime in a little bit too, and you guys really don't need to see me. I'm gonna share my screen here momentarily, but a quick status update. As you all know, we did enter into a contract with a playground vendor this spring, Rocky Mountain Recreation. And Rob and I have been working closely with them on some preliminary planning. And we just kind of are starting on the design phase because prior to that, there was a lot of site prep work that needed to be done. And Public Works has spent a lot of time over the past month or so getting all of that ready. So we had to relocate a water line, that memorial stone that's out there, and remove quite a bit of existing mulch and soil. And so that has now taken place. And we did a site visit on Monday with Intermountain Engineering, myself, Public Works, and then the playground vendor. And so we are now moving into conceptual design discussions. And what I wanted to do tonight is just talk a little bit high level about aesthetics and design. I'm going to pull some images up on the screen to show you, and mainly just make sure that staff are on the same page with council as far as what you'd like to see, what you'd not like to see, and make sure from a design and aesthetic standpoint that we're all on the same page. We don't need to get into the weeds right now with regard to specific equipment. But I will talk through that just briefly. And then from there, my hope is that based on some of your feedback, Rob and I can go back to RMR and get some final design proposals with price ranges, and then bring that back to you hopefully by the next meeting, if we can get that from them in time, with some options that we would present to council, and of course allow the public to chime in as well at that time. And then we can make some final decisions from there. I will point out a couple things. Some of this I'll point out when I pull up the images, but there is a lead time, of course. And so I really would like to get equipment ordered sooner than later, which is why I'm pushing this. So I'd like to get equipment ordered by the end of the month. Most standard equipment is about 6 to 8 weeks out, but anything custom is longer. We're not looking at a lot of custom equipment, but there were some options provided. And then the actual installation, once that's scheduled, should be fairly quick. They're estimating 4 to 5 days for actual installation. But we definitely want to get this done by the end of summer. And as you all know, we have a very short window for that, as we've just discussed. So let me share my screen, and Rob, feel free to chime in anytime if you want to do so. Oops. Okay, bear with me. I'm going to pull these up one at a time. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. So a couple things I'll point out. Again, we're just kind of talking design, aesthetics, colors, that type of thing right now. And you'll notice in some of these images that you may not see a ton of equipment. It may look a little sparse, but again, because this isn't the final proposed, all the final proposed play equipment. But I'm happy to talk through it and go through any questions. I will also point out though, when we do talk about the placement of equipment and the amount of space that we have, we are somewhat limited. We had a decent amount of equipment with the old playground, but the other challenge with that is that playground was built quite a while ago and was not up to current standards. So there are a lot of what are called use zones and clearance space that's required in between different pieces of equipment. So that's all regulated and we have to abide by that. So we will have to have some things sort of spaced out. So this first design, we initially liked sort of the color scheme, the darker colors, the browns, the greens, I think, and the sort of natural look of it. We are looking at probably a couple of tower structures. It doesn't have to be the specific one. I just wanted to bring this up to show you. And I'll go into a few others. This one, we also kind of liked the natural look with the trees. You can probably see there's a climbing structure on the tree to the right. We have some different slides, obviously, and I can go more into the specific equipment in this if you would like. This independent equipment in this example, we have a lot of options on those. We would be looking at, let me see if I can make this any bigger. Oops.
Cindy, is this the footprint too? Of the...
It's close. It's not exact. We did actually end up making the site is actually a little, it should be pretty close though, because yeah, they did design this after the initial measurements, but the site area is actually a little bit bigger than we initially thought, so that is good. But for example here, so yeah, we have our two tower structures. This thing sort of, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but there's a spinner in here. There's some sensory panels. And then you probably can't see it very well, but there is a seesaw over to the left and then some other sensory equipment. The bobber on the far left, they have different wildlife theme options we can do with those. I think they have, I can't remember what that one is, but they had different wildlife. There's a fish one and some different ones. So we can play around and definitely make it sort of a mountain theme if that is desired. And I'm going to go into, I didn't care for these colors, but if you like them, let me know. They showed us this one though, just to see some of the other things that can be provided. This is obviously a different style of tower and is taller, so that's another option. Obviously, here's a very different option. And this one, oh, this was the same one from the beginning, just showing you from the other side. And then I want to show you this other one. One second, here it is. So I'm going to preface, we would not do the safari theme on this, so don't worry about that part. But I wanted to show you this example because I love the connectivity of it and all the different features that are grouped into this. And I know it's a little busy on the picture. I'm going to show you the back side of it here in just a moment. But this is, I can't remember if it's 10 or 12 foot tower. Rob and I did like the idea of at least one taller tower. This one, of course, has the dual slides. On the far left, there's a climbing feature. I don't know if you can see that, but left of the first slide, there's a climbing feature. Towards the center, you have these rings.
Is this one an option?
What's that?
Is this one an option?
It is very much an option. We would change it slightly just to do more of a mountain theme probably than a safari, but the equipment is certainly an option. A couple things I'll preface, like this one, I'll just point out a couple quick things. There are these rings they can crawl through here toward the center and some monkey bars. This piece on the far right, we would not likely do. This, it looks like this round thing on the far right is actually an accessible rolling swing, but it's quite large. It takes up a lot of space and it's quite expensive. So I'm guessing we would not do that. But I liked how this had so many different connected features. This is the back side of it. And you can see there's ropes on the far left. You have another slide on the back, a smaller one for younger kids, and several different climbing features. So I wanted to show you that just as an option that personally I liked with a different theme. And then they also had, I don't know how well you can see them, but it has these tree features.
More expensive?
We don't, I think they're all pretty similar. I don't think this is dramatically more expensive, but what I'm going to ask them to do is give us a few different options with a few different price ranges so that you can make a decision from that. And that's kind of what we're targeting. But I don't have exact pricing yet because along with this primary structure, we would need to figure out all the side items like bobbers, any seesaws, spinners, any other independent freestanding items. So what we'll do, I had already asked them, oh, I guess I should show you this one. This was a train station theme, which I wasn't necessarily sold on. I liked the water tank at the top, or what could be made into a water tank. It's not necessarily that. But the one thing I'll point out about that is if anybody really loves the idea, that is a custom option, so it does have a longer lead time. But I thought I'd show you anyway in case anyone was super attached to that. But so these are some preliminary ideas. Like I said, we liked the colors in this one. I think kind of the browns, the dark greens. If you have any preferences or thoughts on design that you like, I'm all ears so I can go back to Rocky Mountain Rec with some of that feedback. Rob and I are hoping to do 2 tower structures, like I said, if possible, or at least one tall one with a very long connected feature like the safari one that I showed you. And then we are looking at some swings, but we are a little challenged for space. So we might just do like infant swings and not do a large set of swings, just because we are a little challenged for space. But those are some of the things I wanted to show you. I guess I lost my safari one. But I would love to answer any questions or just take any initial feedback just on aesthetics that you guys have or anything specific you'd like to see or not see.
Well, kids loathe standing in line, so 2 slides is better than 1.
Yeah.
And that structure right there has just got a lot more activities as opposed to the sparse stuff. And obviously we can decide on some satellite station bobbers, as you call them. I elect the full-size moose as the bobber, but I don't know if they're going to buy that idea.
Oh, I like it. I'll try it. I'll see if I can do it. But yeah, I agree. I like how this one has it. To me, it definitely has a lot more features, and it probably is slightly more expensive than the other ones. But I still think it's worth looking into, and we can get different estimates. And there are, when we price these out, we'll probably have options as well of things we can add or remove. And so I think there's ways to play around with it to, get us to the best bang for a buck, best value for overall play space and maximizing that play space.
Well, not only are there a lot more things, and if I were a kid, it certainly looks like a lot more fun.
Right. Yes. And like I said, the other ones were kind of presented more just for aesthetics, and it wasn't like a final proposal. But to that,
I don't care for the aesthetics of the others. They look basic and cheap, a lot of them.
Okay.
I like the idea of the railroad station, but this one seems to me to be the best. But some of the others look positively ugly.
Well, I don't know about the rail station because that might make people think we want to bring back Tennessee.
That's a good point.
I really like the water tower. I would like to see this go as fast as possible for the kids, but I think the water tower and make it Minturn would be pretty cool.
I can definitely still ask.
I like the safari, but maybe a water tower on top of it.
Yeah, I can still ask and just clarify what that timeline looks like. And if it's something that wouldn't hold up the overall project, we can still price that out.
So Cindy, maybe we can, I think our thought was we were going to proceed with like 3 options for kind of the aesthetics and then start getting some public feedback. And it sounds like we have a preference for either like a natural aesthetic or one, maybe we do 2 that are kind of more of a natural aesthetic and one that's, looking at that station water tower type theme, and then we see what people think.
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to come back with, like I said,
aesthetic that they're presenting, at least it's shown in those lines. It's not very natural. It's just.
Would you prefer natural?
What?
Would you prefer something that's natural, green or like earth tones? Is that what you would hope for?
I don't think that's what kids want. I think they want something fun.
Okay. That's good feedback.
And it's fake natural. It's not real natural.
It is.
Plastic.
Well, with that, what about, we kind of avoided it, but what about bright colors? Do we want bright colors? We can look at that.
I like bright colors,
So-
but look.
What was that,
Okay.
Spence?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
I-
good. Okay.
How many times do we have to sit through, you know, on intern, stay intern funky? Yeah,
Yeah.
Paint it all pink.
Okay.
no.
Well, more funky then, Cindy.
Okay, more funky. Okay.
Yep.
More funky. I will.
Strike that from the
But
record.
I like the height of the kind of 3-story ones and of the towers, and then the connectivity, like the density of those multi structures.
Okay.
Yeah, if we could do multiple towers even, I will say Levi's request is more slides.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
whatever.
There's 3 and.
And you're,
There is 3 on the one. Yes, there's 2 on the front and 1 on the back. But I do like the idea of 2 towers and the height. To Spence's point, multiple slides. Yeah. And
your public works team went out there and they moved that giant monument stone, and that's unbelievable that they did that. So they got us some more space.
They did. Yes, they did. So.
Good job on Public Works.
Yes. Okay, well, I will take all this feedback and I'll come back to you as soon as possible with some proposals. And does anyone have anything else before I wrap up? Any other feedback that we should know? Okay.
I guess just cost comparison amongst those specific features, and that's about it.
Absolutely. Okay. We will be back with you soon. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Thank you.
All right. More fun stuff. Good governance training.
This will be about an hour. I don't know if you want to take a 5-minute break.
Yes.
Yeah. I'll probably need to.
We'll reconvene in 5 minutes for recess.
Something like this should be catered.
Everything's.
Well, he's the one who-
It says, I like slide, that's the one we need to listen to. I'm sorry, it says
No,
less
it's just-
slide.
Being council meeting. Mike, take it away.
All right, well, every 2 years when we have a new council, we do, we used to call it an ethics training, but it's broader than that. It's a good governance training. And the idea is for people who are new to council, acquaint you with some of the important legal concepts surrounding municipal governance. And for those of you who have heard this 1, 2, or maybe 4 or 5 times now, it's never a bad thing to put these back in the front of your memory.
Wait, did I do this to everybody?
No.
You didn't
no,
want to.
no, no.
So you can roll your eyes at him.
Even if we had the exact same council as we had before, after each municipal election, we try to do this training, because it's good to keep everybody with these good governance thoughts in mind. So before we get going, Jay emailed around to everybody 2 documents that I encourage you to save to your computer. I think they're good things to reference from time to time. I think you should read them both in their entirety as council people. One is the Minturn Home Rule Charter. The other one is Resolution 41 Series 2008. Both of these documents have process related content, which is how you as a council, the powers that you have, the process that you need to follow in order to take various kinds of action, the way in which we conduct our meetings. And I think the more that you as council people kind of have that in the front of your head, the better our meetings go and the more effective you're going to be doing your jobs. So keep those on your computers. Eric has an additional document to keep on his computer. We'll talk in today's session a little bit about executive sessions, and we have an executive session guide that the Colorado Municipal League puts out that Eric uses every time we go into executive session. So to begin with, I always try to put in context that holding an elective office is it's not just an honor or a special thing. It actually has a legal component to it, because once you've been elected, state law imposes what's called a fiduciary duty on you to carry out your duties in a legal manner. And I've never seen this happen, but the district attorney actually has authority to bring cases against elected officials who abuse their trust. I don't think that's going to be the case with anybody on our board, but I think it's important to understand that our legislature has said that holding public office is important and paying attention to the rules matters. No matter what you see on the national stage, where rules sometimes seem like they don't apply, we try very hard to ground our meetings and our decisions and our process in rules. So, as trusts or as members of the council, you act in three capacities, and it's important to understand the distinctions between these because it affects the process that we undertake in reaching decisions, and it affects who you get to talk to. And as you're out and about, mingling with your constituents, understanding when you can talk about a matter of public business and when you're not supposed to talk about a matter of public business is important. So, legislative matters. Think about our state legislature. Well, you are the local legislative body for the town of Minturn. Through ordinance, you adopt code provisions. You adopt a budget. Budgeting is a legislative process. And when you are acting in a legislative capacity or considering legislative matters, you get to act like a congressperson or a state representative, and you get to talk to whomever wants to talk to you about those items. And it can be in this room or it can be out and about in the community, legislative. Quasi-judicial, this is the one that is often new to people elected to local government, is you actually sit as judges frequently. You didn't think you were signing up for that when you ran for office, but when you undertake to grant an approval specific to an application of somebody, you are acting in what under state law is called a quasi-judicial capacity. And that means that you have an obligation to take information that you learn in a public hearing in this room and to apply it to the code, the standards that your code sets out, and to reach a decision where your conclusion is rationally based on the evidence that was presented to you in the public hearing. And because individuals' rights, constitutional rights, are implicated in when you act in a quasi-judicial capacity, you are not free to go talk about these things with the public outside of the public hearing. And the reason is that the applicant has the right to have a record made of the evidence presented and that they then have the right to have that judicially reviewed. And if you're out there talking to the public outside of the public hearing, you're gathering information that is influencing your decision that is not on the record, and therefore the applicant doesn't have the ability to have a fair judicial review of your decision. So, quasi-judicial, take comments here, and when people come up to you and say, I really want to talk to you about that subdivision or that liquor license or that individual zoning request, say, that's great. We love public comment. Please come to the meeting. And if you can't come to the meeting, please email your comments to Jay, who will read them into the record. Yes, Lauren.
Just an example from today that I had a question about, just to cause trouble here. So I understand that it's appropriate for an individual running for election to make presentations to the council. But do you feel it's appropriate to ask the council to sign off on whether they support a particular candidate and do it publicly while we're in an open setting and while we're sitting at behind the table in our official capacity to pass whether we should approve it or not. That to me feels like it's bringing politics into it's not just information, it's something else. And I'm wondering if that is appropriate, and if not, if we could request future candidates for election not to do that.
I thought that part was awkward. You very frequently have candidates running for, in particular, county office who will come and make a presentation to you. That happens not just here, at many different municipalities. They should be limited to a certain amount of time, and but I did find the passing of the petition to be a little awkward. I don't know that it's prohibited, but I'm not sure it's a best practice.
And I'm wondering if they asked us to publicly state what we.
Oh, you should
As part of it.
Yeah.
It seems like it's not appropriate.
So I'm in agreement with you. I don't think anything improper happened, but I'm not sure it's the best practice for how the council should act. So, okay, final thing that councils do, you act in kind of a policy capacity. You give direction to the manager about the things that should be undertaken, or the engineer or the attorney or the clerk. You approve policies. These are usually done by just kind of a voice vote. You enter into contracts. You're the body who makes sure that the staff has the ability to make the town function. So policymaking capacity, not restricted in the same way as quasi-judicial. If someone came to you on the street and said, I heard about that contract about the bridge, I really want to talk to you about that, talk to them about the contract about the bridge. Policymaking is open game. Procedures for council action. Tonight, we had an ordinance, that is, we're enacting legislation. Generally more important things happen by ordinance, adopting budgets, incurring debt, selling property, amending the code. There is a process that we have to follow. It's in your town charter. We've got 2 meetings. You got to read the title. There's publication in the newspaper, public hearing, opportunity for comment by the public. And that your ordinances are generally effective 7 days after publication. There's 2 readings to ordinances. It always is, except for one exception we'll talk about, it's going to come back to you. Emergency ordinances. These are things needed for the immediate preservation of the public health, safety, welfare, or property. And they must be passed by unanimous vote of the council. And they take effect immediately upon passage, but cannot be in effect for more than 90 days. And this just recognizes the fact that, if we have a huge wildfire and you need to put some kind of emergency regulation in place, or the water plant blows up and we've got to do emergency water restrictions, you have to have the ability to come in and get things done quickly. The last emergency ordinance that I can remember that we passed was a moratorium on certain types of land uses. And again, these things are only valid for 90 days. So we usually follow it up with a formally the normal ordinance, which then codifies the decision-making for a longer period of time. Resolutions are formal pronouncements of the town. Only 1 reading. Very frequently, they don't have to be noticed other than on an agenda. They can be from everything as a proclamation to celebrate Minturn Heritage Day to approving a big contract. Jay, I know, likes big contracts approved by resolution because there's a formal recording that he then is able to keep track of those things. And then a lot of things are just approved by motion. Just the mayor asks, is anyone going to make a motion to approve this? And there's no resolution in front of you. You're just approving a contract, or you're giving direction to Rob or myself. And there's a motion and a voice vote, which is then recorded in the minutes. Again, voice votes, roll call votes. Today, the mayor on the ordinance made a roll call vote. You each go individually on the record as to your decision. Voice vote simply is everybody saying aye or nay, and the mayor makes a call if we had a one side or the other pass. If anyone ever was worried that they thought that the voice vote had been inaccurately called, you can ask for that to be done by a roll call vote. So majority prevails. Every ordinance, so your charter shall require the affirmative vote of the majority of the entire council for passage. What this means is that if you have a tie, and so today we have one council person missing, you could have a 3-3 vote. In that case, the matter in front of you fails. So you've got to actually reach a majority in order to make a decision. Certain things that come before you require supermajority votes, not just a simple majority. Emergency ordinances that we talked about, and executive sessions. You have to have a 2/3 vote to go into executive session. A quorum is the concept that you can't just have one person on the council show up and make decisions. You have to have a quorum. A quorum for a 7-person council is 4 members. If you have a quorum that shows up, 3 of the 4 members of the quorum can make a decision on behalf of the whole council. Abstentions. So this is a unique part of your charter that Hawkeye brought to my attention when I first started years ago. I'm just going to read this. Every council member, when present, shall vote upon ordinances, resolutions, and motions unless excused by the unanimous consent of the remaining council members present. Provided that a council member shall be excused from voting on any question which he or she has a conflict of interest or is a question concerning his or her own conduct. Each council member who is present shall vote when his or her name is called. Any council member refusing to vote shall be considered delinquent in his or her duties, and an affirmative vote shall be cast in their name. I don't know of any other charter that has this provision, but the net effect of it is you have to vote when called, because sometimes you're like, oh, I abstain. I don't know that I've really ever heard that from this body, but sometimes I don't want to vote on this. I abstain. Unless you have a conflict. We'll talk about conflicts in a minute. You have to vote. And if you don't vote, Jane marks a yes down for you. So that was good. A unique part of your charter. Okay. Council meetings, conduct of how meetings are done. This is ordinance 41. Resolution 41, which kind of governs how you as a body conduct your business. So first of all, meetings are open to the public. That is true under your charter. That is true under the Colorado Open Meetings Act. We've grown up in an environment where the public business is mostly conducted in the open, and we think that's the norm. But 70 years ago, that wasn't the norm. A lot of decisions got made behind closed doors, and we're better because decisions are made in the open. We have discussion items. You will see on the agenda, we've got items that are just for discussion. That's like Little Beach Park. We're informing you about what's going on. And then we have decision or business items. Those are things that we're asking you to give direction or to actually vote on. Items need to be on an agenda. So, and this is Open Meetings Act requirement where if we're going to take action on something that is not an absolute emergency, like if the town is burning down, we don't have to post an agenda and wait 24 hours. But for pretty much everything else, Jay has to post an agenda, and we do this both digitally, and we have a designated place of posting here at Town Hall. And we need the items that are discussed in the meeting, and especially items that are going to be voted upon, need to be on that agenda. The public has the right to know the business is going to be conducted by this body. So if you want to talk about something at an upcoming meeting, you need to tell Jay or ask Jay via the mayor, because the mayor actually is one who sets your agenda, to get that on the agenda for consideration. The mayor conducts the meetings and regulates interaction with applicants and with the public. And this is true that both for members of the public as well as you. If you want to speak, you generally need to be recognized by the mayor. And we are fairly informal in Minturn, which is a great thing. People want to make a comment, we provide them opportunities to make those comments. Usually the mayor opens up discussion on agenda items just generally to the council. Going to go down the row. We really don't enforce any kind of time limits on how much you can talk. The idea is, I think, that in a small town, good decisions benefit from discussion and opportunity to be heard. But important, only one person should speak at a time. Because again, especially if we're acting in a quasi-judicial hearing, we're creating a record, and when we have a bunch of people talking over each other, the sound system, the audio visual has a hard time catching that. As members of council, I encourage you to always make sure you're talking into your microphone so that the public has a clear ability to hear if they choose to watch the video of your meetings. I encourage you not to interrupt public comment or an applicant's presentation with questions. My experience is those are best saved to a period when people ask questions. If somebody gets out of line, and I want to stress that's a pretty high bar on the public, the mayor can gavel them out of order. But the general rule is that so long as if we provide the opportunity for the public to make comment and they want to come up and sing the Star Spangled Banner, they can do that within the time allotted to them.
So
Yes.
the public service lady, that would have been public comment?
She was a special presentation, I believe. She was on the agenda as a well, the Excel
The one that's running for assessor.
Excel.
Excel was on.
Isn't that what you said?
Excel, I'm not public service.
Yeah.
So Excel was.
I'm decades behind, half a century behind. Yeah. So it would have been inappropriate for me to interrupt her and ask her about her map early in her presentation.
Occasionally, it's just easier to get those questions out. But especially when we're having a public hearing, either on a legislative item or a quasi-judicial item, I really encourage taking notes and waiting until the question period to ask those questions. And one thing I really want to stress, maintaining decorum quickly is compromised when dialogues develop from the dais where you're sitting and people in the audience. Anytime people in the audience start to try to, when they're not invited to speak from the lectern, but they start to talk directly with council, the mayor should be gaveling them out of order. And I strongly encourage you not to talk directly to members of the public. It's how meetings devolve into disagreements and out of order situations. So maintaining kind of this formal way of how you interact with the public through the mayor, with people particularly up here at the lectern, it actually has a purpose. It makes your meetings function much better. When the staff is presenting, so tonight we had a couple of staff reports, specifically or in particular when we have an application in front of for your consideration, the staff usually leads off with the staff report. Again, at the end of that staff report, it is a time for council comment, and then we will open it up to public comment, and you'll get more information. We'll get more information, and you will then have another opportunity to ask staff questions. So kind of holding your questions until one of those two opportunities makes the meeting function better. I encourage that, you know, when you're undertaking your role as council people, providing comments on the issue at hand is particularly useful. Providing lectures or giving speeches during in particular noticed items is less helpful. This council provides each council person an opportunity, usually at the end of the meeting, for council comments. If you have kind of a longer thing you want to make your council people and the public aware of, that's really the appropriate time to get that out. Personal attacks, again, I think it's appropriate for the mayor to gavel those out. This council and this community is really very good. Those types of things happen few and far between. But again, meetings quickly devolve when things get personal, and what you're doing is the public's business, and that can be done without really attacking people in their personal capacity. You may get attacked, and I occasionally get attacked as a town attorney, and really you just kind of have to take a stiff upper lip and say thank you and move on to the next person. It's what I've found is the best way to handle that. Rules of order, parliamentary procedure. We do not engage in extensive parliamentary procedure in Minturn. The main things you need to know is that there is a motion, there is a second, there is discussion about the item upon which the motion is based. If someone wants to change the motion, there's a couple ways you can do that. You can make a motion to amend the motion, or you can take a vote to defeat the motion on the table and then put a new motion on the table. The mayor governs or kind of regulates the discussion between the council members. Once public comment is closed and a motion is on the table, we really should not be taking public comment at that point. It's a council item. Yes.
So it troubles me, the F troubles me, because I can conceive of a council member making a motion and then there being extended discussion about it and debate about it, and a council member that made the motion changing their mind or seeing some other side that's important to bring up and discuss. And I don't understand the rationale for prohibiting them from doing that.
I kind of agree with you, Lynn, and I think this comes out of Resolution 41. I'm trying to find where it's at.
Well, clearly we don't follow it.
What's that?
Well, Noted.
Noted.
Doesn't want to, that needs more clarification. It's to clarify the motion. It's not to reopen debate on it.
It says he may neither speak against it nor vote against it. I would think that's
Yeah, that's not a Mike thing.
No,
That
that's
comes
not-
out of this resolution somewhere, and I'm not seeing it off the top of my head. That could be something we can flag as something we want to change. I don't think anyone here would call you out of order if after hearing your fellow council people debate the issue, you're like, yeah, maybe I've changed my mind. I'm gonna vote against it.
Well, I'd say the precedent's been set multiple times.
Yes, that's correct.
Guess you need to change it.
Thoughts or questions about just how this body regulates meetings and how we interact with public
When there's public.
when public shows up? Yeah. Wish it was a little more often.
We do too.
Yeah. All right, well, let's talk about conflicts of interest. There is both a state statute on conflicts of interest. There is also the Minturn Charter, which has some specific provisions related to conflicts. So the most obvious item where conflict arises is if you or your immediate family have an interest in the decision before the council. If there's a piece of property you have an ownership interest in and you're wanting a zoning approval or something like that, or if there's a contract and your brother has an interest in the business, you need to declare that you have a conflict and step back. Members of the council should not be trying to do business with the town unless if it's through a competitive bidding process. So just because you are a council person, if you have a company and the town puts out an RFP, you can respond. And you're not allowed to vote on it. You have conflict of interest, but you can do that. But otherwise, it is best when there is a separation between the people making the decisions and the people having a financial business with the town. You have an obligation when you have a conflict. We have at the beginning of the agenda, a period in which you can declare a conflict. If you ever have a question about whether you might have a conflict, talk to Jay. Jay will reach out to me and we will help you prepare for that decision. Or that help you understand whether you think you have a conflict or not. If there becomes a dispute about whether you have a conflict, I've seen this happen once, not here, where someone didn't say they had a conflict and someone else on the council said, but your brother owns the business that is going to be voted on for this contract. You have a conflict. And for whatever reason, the council person like, I don't have a conflict about that. Inevitably, you'll all turn your head to me and you'll be like, does he have a conflict or not? And I will say, well, here's what the ethics statute says. But the ultimate decision as to whether someone has a conflict and has to recuse is yours. You get to vote on whether one of your fellow board members or council members has a conflict of interest. And that's a little awkward, but that's how your charter and our government is set up. And I am not the ultimate decider of that fact. You are. I want to talk a little bit about, so frequently, especially in a small town, we'll have, for example, a land use action come up and it's on Boulder Street. And someone wants to put up a sixplex on Boulder. And you live on Boulder and you might have some thoughts about that because you live there. And some neighbors show up from Boulder and they're unhappy about it. And the applicant who wants to build says, I think Mackenzie has a conflict. She lives on Boulder and she has a conflict and can't vote on this because she lives on Boulder and my project's on Boulder. And here we have to distinguish between kind of like your personal conflict, like do you actually have a business or a really vested interest in the decision? Or is your interest really not dissimilar from everybody else who might live on Boulder or within the vicinity? And my take is that just because your property or some interest you have might be affected no different from all the neighbors around you, you don't have a conflict of interest where you have to recuse. You get to take information, because otherwise in a small town, you know, where do you draw the line? And we have to have a quorum. We have to have people who can vote on decisions, make decisions.
Well, that said,
Yes.
because it's happened multiple times. Again, the difference between the big picture and how it specifically personally affects you. And so that has come up multiple times in discussions where I got it. Your opinion is somewhat formed by your worldview. However, lots of times you could argue, well, you're making this decision because it just impacts you negatively, not necessarily for the betterment of the town. It just impacts you. So where does that fall?
We all come to government with certain opinions and perhaps even biases. And again, I think that unless you have like a financial interest or there is such a strong correlation to where you live or something you have, and that there's a substantial detrimental effect on your interest, that it's no longer like you're just like everybody else on Boulder, but you know, like all the traffic is going to show up right in front of your house and there's a major issue specific to you, then you probably should recuse. But if your interests are just the same or similar to everybody else on the street, well, we're lucky that somebody from Boulder wanted to run for council and they're willing to sit through these meetings.
Well, here's another example, and this did come up, or something very similar came up. Let's say your husband has strong feelings about dog leash laws, okay? And there's a dog leash resolution or ordinance up for action by the council, but spouses can have independent, separate judgments. Is it appropriate to require the spouse, this did actually happen, to disqualify themselves because of their relationship to their spouse or family member?
I think it's a valid point. Spouses often have different views of things, and that's just because one spouse comes in and speaks against something doesn't necessarily mean that that's disqualifying of a council person sitting on a matter. The Colorado has something called the Independent Ethics Commission, and they have come out with a kind of a guidance that if something as to a particular elected official's nature would lead the reasonable person to believe that somehow they had a conflict or that they were unable to render an independent judgment, that it's best, not required, but best that they recuse themselves in that situation. So again, I think in the world of conflict of interest, we see this as kind of a continuum, not there's always a bright line. Again, financial interests, pretty bright lines. You have a financial interest in anything coming before this body, you need to disclose that. And in all likelihood, you really should be disqualifying yourself. But I understand, like, there are some gray areas.
And if we have to do that, we still sit here. We just
when you declare conflict, so
A special closet.
okay.
So there's kind of two variations for this. If you have a conflict and the matter in front of this does not require your individual participation as like an applicant, so Mackenzie, if you owned a little piece of property and you wanted to get a zoning approval and the property was only in your name, I can't ask you to leave and go sit in the lobby because you have to be here to represent yourself.
Right.
But generally speaking, if you have a conflict and your participation as the applicant is not necessary, we do ask that you leave the chamber and then come back when that matter's finished.
Okay, so we don't even get to view it.
Well, you can listen in or.
Yeah, okay,
Watch online.
just thanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope I get some property.
Okay.
Dog leash position will get you there.
Things where you can have a substantial financial interest. So obviously ownership, you might be a creditor, like maybe you've lent somebody some money to help finance a project that's coming in front of you, conflict of interest there. Loan or a debtor interest situation, you're somehow involved with a business, whether in an ownership capacity or an employment capacity, or you're an officer on the board of a company that wants to do something here. I know that Kate, who works for the big ski area, when the ski area has on rare occasion had something that they wanted Minturn to do, she's announced that she works for them and she voluntarily recuses. So yes, Jay.
Sometimes we have a council or board member who has a project in town and needs to bring it to the town. How do they address that one as far as Gusty, for example, has to step off the board and then present the issue? How does that work? Or the best way to make it?
Just like that. I'm trying to remember.
Jeff Armstead.
Yeah, that's all of the P and Z. I'm thinking, what was it, John Rosenfeld, who he wanted a lease.
He had a lease up there and was default on it.
And I think he had to address the board, so he declared a conflict and he stepped down and then he stood at the dais and explained why he wanted to have this lease, and then maybe we forced him to leave when the decision was made. But he, if it's your personal interest, just because you get elected to council, it doesn't mean you don't get to petition your government when you need to. So, yeah. So conflicts, again, I mean, you're all smart, ethical people. You're gonna kind of know if something creeps up that you're like, I wonder if I should talk to the town attorney about that. And if that's the case, talk to Jay. Jay will get in touch with me. We'll counsel with you so you feel like you can make a good informed decision around conflicts of interest. Okay. Gifts, Colorado Constitution, I think in the early 2000s, there was a referendum where a value cap was placed on gifts that can be given to elected officials. You should not receive gifts in excess of, I think it's a little more, I think it's $71 this year. It goes up with the consumer price index every year. But around $70 in any calendar year. I don't think a lot of gifts are given, but occasionally, I don't know, someone who might have business in front of the town say, well, I got these Bronco tickets. Why don't you should use these, go down and that creates an appearance of impropriety. And
what about government meetings? I mean, there's a government Christmas dinner every year given by the county. And I'm sure it's free drinks, food, everything. I'm sure I don't know whether it exceeds $70 or not, but people go there to network and
I think it's a valid
but
point.
they're not speaking or answering questions.
Yeah, I hope the county is thinking through that a little bit, but there are, like you said, like, for example, when you go to CML, there are vendors, engineering firms, construction firms, and they will sponsor little events that you can go to and, you know, a wine tasting or a dinner or something like that. And again, the value of what you receive in any calendar year from a specific entity that may have business in front of you should be less than $71. So, just keep that out there. Again, I don't think a lot of gifts are given here in Minturn, but it does come up from time to time. You know, again, it's like, oh, hey, I got these tickets, or, you know, hey, we've got some ski passes, or, you know, something that if you're not kind of tuned into, you know, that there is this limitation as an elected official, you might just be like, oh, that's a nice gesture. Yeah, I'd love to go see this concert or do whatever. And sometimes you have to say no. Now, this doesn't, the gift ban doesn't include things like tokens of appreciation. I don't know, you know, plaque or a photo or something like that. If you're speaking, or if you go, you know, to a conference and like at CML, where someone probably has agreed to host the big luncheon with the guest speaker, generally that is going to be exempt from this requirement. Does not include campaign contributions. I don't think, to my knowledge, nobody that I've worked with on this council has ever had a campaign contribution, but if that would ever come up, that's not part of the ban, and it doesn't include gifts by personal friends and relatives. So, you know, just because your brother may have a construction company that every now and again does something for Minturn doesn't mean he can't give you a Christmas gift. So, we talked about a little bit about again, as part of the conflict discussion, you know, the Colorado Independent Ethics Commission has this kind of rule about the appearance of impropriety. And it really is, it's a good best practice. I mean, if you have the feeling that, does this look good in front of the, you know, the public? Does it undermine the public's trust in the ability of the town government to act fairly, to feel like everyone's being given a fair shake? It probably invokes the appearance of impropriety. You're welcome again to talk to me about if there's a situation like that. But good governance probably says if your, you know, radar goes up a little bit, not to do it. You know, it really is an attempt to get away from the good old boys way that government was done for a long, long time. Just because you might know somebody who has the potential to have some business in front of the council from the town doesn't mean that they should have an advantage over other people who don't.
So this really, I'm going back to what it was before. This really bothers me because I just volunteered to be on the council government's ski town government. And I was told afterwards that I guess they have meetings all over the state, and you have to go there. They're multi-day meetings. They don't pay for your hotel, but they pay for your food. And that's certainly going to definitely amount to more than $70 worth of free food over a year, because they have 4 meetings a year. It seems to me that if it's a official business, that should be sufficient for free food.
I think if the government's paying for that one, I don't think that falls under the gift category. So like, you know, we pay dues to, yeah.
I would think it comes under per diem and associated with official business.
Yeah, when you're doing official business and the reimbursement is coming from a fund, whether it's from the town or through dues paid by the town and other governments, I don't think that's not a gift. That's a reimbursement to you.
Email does regional meetings, and you go and you have dinner and you listen to a speaker. That's part of the business of a council member. If you go, sometimes it costs the town $15 for you to attend or whatever, and we'll pay mileage, that kind of a thing, but it's not, that's not the intent of it.
So I wouldn't worry too much about reimbursements or when you're attending a function in your capacity as like a representative of the town where really government entities have provided the funding for that. That's not something you need to worry about. Final thing under kind of the appearance of impropriety, words that should never come out of your mouth as a council person are, do you know who I am? And it amazes me that sometimes in a split instance of somewhat poor judgment that people still say that. I just encourage you to keep that in mind, whether it's with law enforcement, whether it's with a permitting official at the county or whomever it may be. You're here doing the public's business, and that doesn't elevate you in any special way against other members of the public. And those are words you never should utter. So coming back to open meetings and open records, let's talk a little bit about what constitutes a meeting, because it is not necessarily always clear. A meeting is when public business is discussed, okay, and there are 3 or more members of a board or a council having that discussion. Okay, that is a public meeting. And so it does not have to be in this room. It could be at the saloon. It could be at Little Beach Park. And you need to watch out for unexpected meetings. So again, 2 of you can get together and talk about public business. That's allowed under the open meetings law. But when you get a 3rd person involved in that under the open meetings law, you are now having a meeting and you're discussing the public business, and that should be noticed and happen in this room. So just be careful about that. Meetings can occur in not obvious ways. Telephone, like you call, use your merge function, and all of a sudden you've got councilperson A and councilperson B on the phone, and you're talking about public business. That's a meeting. Emails. This is no longer a new thing, but when Rob or Jay sends something out to the council, Rob will do updates from time to time. Never hit reply all. Because if you hit reply all and be like, these are my thoughts on the following public business items that were contained in Rob's update email, and it's going to everybody on the council, well, you're starting a public meeting. So be careful about that. The one that still causes problems that people don't often think about is like social media. And this can be like on your Facebook page, or maybe there's a Concerned Citizens of Minturn Facebook page or something like that. And if Eric and Gusty and Spence are all on that web page and public comments going on, and the elected officials are typing their thoughts in on that, and you've got 3 people all typing about some public business, that technically is a public meeting, and you need to avoid it. Again, there just are these things that we don't always think about. Social events where public business is not discussed is not a public meeting. So I think we have a holiday party most years for the council and the good staff here in Minturn. You get together and you talk about everybody's kids and what the Nuggets are doing and the ski conditions, and that's all. Just don't talk about public business. All 7 of you can get together and talk about things that have nothing to do with the town, and you can do that as much as you want. But if there are 3 or more of you together, please don't talk about public business. Yes, Jay.
Let me recommend, if the 7 of you get together for a holiday party, you have somebody else there too. I mean, I would never recommend you go into an executive session without Rob or Mike or Mike. I mean, but probably both. I mean, and a lot of times what I'll do is I will put attention council attached to the finance reports. But I will send it to Rob and blind CC you guys so that if you hit reply all, it only goes back to Rob and me.
Yep, the reply all is a challenge, yeah. And it usually takes, having made that mistake once, me or Jay or Rob reaching out and saying, oh, we made a little mistake here, and then it's seared in your head, so. And if you see a reply all from one of your fellow council people, don't hit reply all and continue the conversation. Stop it right there.
Unless you say motion to adjourn.
Non-public. Although I know that's your favorite motion.
No, that's Katie.
Executive sessions, we've talked about, I want to talk about them in attorney-client privilege. So executive sessions, they're an exception to the general rule that public business is discussed in public places. Executive sessions recognize that there are certain things that you're acting as the governing body of the town, and occasionally we have to have the ability to talk about things outside of the public's purview to protect the best interests of the town. These frequently fall into like 3 or 4 categories. Negotiations. So like if we need to purchase property, we don't all have to sit out here and talk about what's the highest price that the town can possibly pay for that. We don't have to give our negotiation strategy away. That can be done in executive session. Receiving advice from the attorney. If there's a legal issue that you need to understand better, you get to get that advice in private. Updates on things like litigation, risk that the town may have about certain things. Those can be held in executive session, and certain types of employment matters can be held in executive session. But again, the general rule is public business is conducted in an open forum. When you receive information from me, frequently, or at least sometimes, that information is attorney-client privilege. And the privilege means that it is non-disclosable to the public as an open record, which we're going to talk about next, or verbally in something if you were deposed or had some obligation where you were required to speak on the record about town business. The privilege runs to the council at large. No individual member has the right to waive attorney-client privilege. And you need to be careful about if we've had a discussion about something that is attorney-client privilege, and I will generally try to tell you, oh, we're having an attorney-client privilege discussion. Certainly things in executive session, you should presume if I am present that they are attorney-client privilege. You need to be careful not to talk about them even loosely, because if you as one individual go around and start talking about the things we talked about in executive session that are attorney-client privilege, well, your effect, even though only the whole council can choose to waive the privilege, you may have effectively done that. A great example of this in the town of Carbondale about 15 years ago, there were negotiations, and I believe even some litigation involving a proposed big new development. And the town attorney had an executive session with the council, and it was all done correctly. And one of the council members had a radio call-in show on the public radio station, like 2 days after the council meeting. And the council person got onto the radio and just started talking about everything that he had learned in executive session and had waived the privilege and caused the town some significant issues. Don't do that. It's not frequent that we have privileged information that we don't share with the public, but when we do, it's for good reason. And the only way to waive the privilege is if you as a council do that by a majority vote. Open records. So under CORA, the Colorado Open Records Act, The records of government are generally open to the public. You can make a CORA request, an open records request. You can say, I want to see all documents of the town related to the Minturn Bridge and this contract that, you know, you're thinking about doing. Well, Jay will filter through the records of the town. He'll identify what there are, and he will then make them available to you. They're open records. Be aware that certain things, because you are elected officials, that you might think are not open records or are not records that are subject to disclosure under CORA, actually are. Emails that involve town business. Even if it's not to Jay or me, well, leave me out of this because I'm a lawyer, or Rob, or one of your fellow council people. If you are writing emails about the public's business as an elected official, those are records. Those are open records. They can be compelled to be obtained through a CORA request. Text messages. I don't know if you remember the events down in Denver involving the mayor or the manager, and there was some shenanigans going on with the staffer, and there were a bunch of text messages, and they were on a private phones. But because they involved, I think it was an elected official and an employee, they were public records. They were not privileged. They got disclosed. Social media. If your Facebook or Instagram page, if 99% of it is, great rafting pictures and stuff, well, if 100% of it is, it's not a public record. But the minute you start interjecting matters involving Minturn's public business into your social media, you're starting to turn your social media into an open record, which again, if we get a request that says, I want to see all communications between council involving this topic, and by the way, I think this has been going on social media, well, then we've got to come to you and be like, open up your social media account so we can, get all that information off and give it out. People don't like those things being disclosed frequently. So don't turn your public phone, your public email, or your personal email, your personal phone, and your personal social media account into public records. It's best to keep those separate. If you want to have a campaign social media account, Mackenzie for Minturn, where all you do is post matters related to Minturn and public business, well, you can have two separate accounts, and the one remains personal and private. The other one is a public record at that point. So questions about public records, questions about attorney-client privilege. Okay. All right, we're almost done. Dealings with employees. Under your charter, the town administrator and the town attorney are appointed by council and serve at your pleasure. You can fire me at any time, pretty much without recourse. Rob has a contract, so you would potentially need to pay him severance if you decide to separate ways with him. But we are the only two people that you have direct control over. The rest of the town staff reports to Rob, because your town charter says that the town administrator is the chief administrative officer of the town, and that he has the power to remove, discharge, suspend, demote, and discipline employees. And bad things happen, including legal claims against municipalities, when council people come in and thinking that just because they're on council, they get to tell employees what to do, or they get in the middle of employment matters involving town employees. So the way that doesn't mean you can't have concerns about employment issues in town, but the way that these are handled are, you go to Rob, you talk to Rob, Rob goes, gets information or gives direction to employees, and Rob comes back and talks to you, and then you evaluate him about how well that has gone. But you don't get in the middle of employment matters. your charter does say so. The town clerk and the treasurer and the municipal judge are appointed by council. They are then supervised by Rob as the manager. So again, even though you appoint those people, when Jay at some point decides there's something greener horizons and driving to Minturn every day and retires, and you will appoint a new clerk and treasurer. Again, the appointment is your responsibility, but ultimately the supervision falls to the town administrator. So in your town code, section 2330, that kind of embodies this, administrative relations, the town council shall deal with the administrative functions of the town through the town administrator. Neither the council nor any individual member thereof shall give direction or orders to any subordinate of the town administrator, except through, I need to do a gender scrub of our code, except through him or her. So, and there's some good reasons for that. In addition to, you've appointed Rob to manage things, you need to give Rob the space to manage the employees. But there are, anytime you have employment issues, there are confidentiality issues, including ones that have legal consequences, and those are best handled through a manager who has training and has access to HR consultants and can better regulate those situations. So if you have concerns about the employees of the town, talk to Rob, and Rob will work with you on that, but you're best not to get directly involved. So good governance, yes, Mayor.
Just curious about planning commission, because we appoint planning commission members as well. Do we have any say in like removing or?
There is, yes, I believe, I don't have this off the top of my head. I believe you can remove a planning commissioner for cause. The planning, so the way that, and this is another reason why, like with employees, like department heads, if a department head has an adverse employment decision, or if they have some kind of complaint, they generally have the ability to appeal the decision that the manager makes to the council. And so you need to kind of have stayed clear of that, because if you're called upon to hear an appeal, you need to hear it with fresh ears. Similarly, with items affecting the planning commission, they sometimes make decisions that potentially get appealed to you. And so the council doesn't really have a direct supervision of the planning commission beyond joint meetings from time to discuss priorities. I think it is appropriate that, you know, if you have concerns, to talk to Madison, Scott, or Rob about them, because there may be instances where we need to intervene. I'll get you a real quick one. And then with the planning commission, but again, issues or items decided by the planning commission do get appealed to you. So I'm sorry, yes, Lynn.
I believe historically, no cause is required for the council to remove a P&C member. They serve at the will of council.
Yeah, I know there is a provision in the town code that talks about that. I don't remember what that is.
I've looked at that.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah. Cool. So, you know, the goal here is to conduct the public's business in a way that they feel confident that you're doing so wisely, that you're giving people fair and equal shake, that you're able to promote the town moving forward on things, even at times when it may be controversial. And so we have processes and procedures that promote all of those things, but ultimately good governance rests with you to try and make good decisions, both in terms of not only the end decision, but how you conduct your affairs and how you interact with each other on council and how you interact with the public. Jay, myself, Rob, we're all here to assist when we can. And if you have questions, please feel free to always reach out and ask. So. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like,
Very much.
And that concludes this portion. I think we're getting close to, apparently it's Kate's favorite motion.
Yeah.
So.
Actually, I think we have to cover future meetings first, right?
very briefly, yeah, any future meeting items, anybody has to add?
I did actually want to bring up reading the town charter. It says council member, which is gender neutral, but then it says he or is, so if we could talk about that going forward. That was actually on my notes.
Address that. Fixing up the agenda on me.
And that other item in 41. In regards to the motion process.
Oh, yeah, we can look at.
Oh, so I looked that up. 4A says, having made a motion, this is in the resolution 41, having made a motion in council, member may neither speak against it nor vote against it. But Robert's Rules of Order allows you to vote against it, but not speak against it if you've made the motion.
So it's contradictory.
But you still can't speak against it if you make the motion. You can vote against it.
But that's Robert's rules.
But that's Robert's rules, not necessarily our.
Not the rule.
We try to follow Robert's.
Not necessarily.
I'm just saying the precedent that we have set over and over and over again that you sat through while crocheting as you're doing now.
I'd like to correct the record. It's knitting.
Whatever. Either way, we just need to revisit it.
We can do that. In that
That's
case, we will.
So I'll make a motion
Wait.
to adjourn.
No, not yet. We
Damn
need
it.
to do future meetings. I have a couple of things I want to bring up.
Okay.
One of them is for the next meeting, we have a liquor license, which I'm not worried about. The other one is we do have the town manager's review. Are we ready for that? On the 17th?
Your comments have been synthesized and I've provided those to the mayor.
Just for full disclosure, I didn't see any of them. I didn't want to see any of them, but I do not want to get in the middle between the council and the town manager. But I was the staff one that was making sure that everybody got it in. It went to Mike's office and he took care of it. This would be an executive session at the next meeting. And then my understanding, and I could be wrong, is currently we don't have anything on the July 1st or the 15th meeting. We do. It just hasn't materialized yet. One of the things that I believe is coming up is Midtown. It'll come by ordinance, Midtown development. It'll come by ordinance and it will be, so that'll be 2 readings. If it comes on July 1st, guess what? The next one's July 15th. Those are the ones that I wanted to make sure that everybody had a, and it gets back to Mike's thing. We're getting close to a holiday called the 4th of July, 250 years, 150 years, whichever one you want to celebrate. And if we don't have at least 4 people, we don't have a quorum. And that's why sometimes I've said, wait a minute, we're getting, start counting heads. It's like, we don't have enough. So I want to make sure that everybody, other than that, that's it. Now we can do that other motion.
Jay, sorry, I have one quick thing. This is not a future meeting topic, but I failed to mention earlier during the staff reports, in case council members see this and are wondering on Friday, we do have a temporary storage shed being installed downtown on Friday. It's a tough shed. It's going to go in the south side yard of Colorado Mattress to be used for market and event storage for the summer. So just in case anyone wonders what's happening over there on Friday, it is an authorized project that the town is doing.
Thank you, Cindy.
Yeah.
All right, on that.
You sure?
Move to adjourn.
Anybody?
Motion by Spence.
Sure, can think of something else.
Make a motion to adjourn.
A motion, yeah. Spence,
So I already knew.
yeah, Spence made it.
That's me.
Second by Lynn, all in favor?
I'm talking against it. Vision 42. All in favor, aye. Peace out.
Motion passes.
Interesting.
Yeah.